So I'm reviewing a few things here this week, and I am exploring exactly what it means. And I come across an article that was on Yahoo a little while ago, and I've been wanting to discuss it and I've been wanting to talk about it, but didn't have the opportunity to do so. But we're going to make time for it. Because I felt it was a very prescient thing here. Now, a few days ago, they had an article, as you can see on your screen here, and it's always very interesting when they're talking about black people. The white media structure is so concerned about black people and black women in particular here. And it always seems to be something they keep bringing up. Of course, they never provide solutions either. Kind of makes you think it's one big ass scam, but anyway, they did this article here, as you can see. And the woman over there on the right-hand side of the screen, the far right with the red top on, that is Miss Mandy Woodruff Santos. And Miss Santos is the one who wrote the article here. And she has a lot to say. She has a whole lot to say here. And we're not going to go through the video here. I want to go over what she said because there's a lot of delusion going on out there right now. And one of the reasons why there's so much delusion is because you have so many individuals here who are passing around lies, nonsense, and other misinformation. And folks are actually trying to live their lives by it. What I want to do is I want to read for you the article here about the things that she said. And we're going to be going into a lot of stuff here, so hang on tight. But basically, she goes into her 5 reasons why it is that 5 reasons black women are ready to quit corporate America. Never mind the fact that by the way, before I start, never mind the fact that the overwhelming majority of black women do not work in corporate America at all, by the way. And she kind of just meshes this all together. Number 1, our jobs were ravaged by the pandemic. Black women saw the slowest job recovery since January 2020 and suffered the largest decline in labor force participation, according to the Labor Department. This was largely because women of color over-indexed in the types of jobs most susceptible to cutbacks, such as travel, tourism, and service jobs. Now, for her to say over-indexed, just say that too many black women pursue jobs in fields that are too easily shut down and replaced. Today, the unemployment rate for black women sits at 6.9% compared to an overall unemployment rate of 4.8%. Quote, it took until 2018 for black women's employment to recover from the Great Recession, and now almost all of those hard-won gains have been erased, wrote Janelle Jones, chief economist for the Labor Department. Now, first of all, I want to deal with that first one there. Our jobs were ravaged by the pandemic. And the real issue here is notice she didn't make any distinction between corporate jobs and whether you are working at Popeyes. So, and what she just named there, those are not corporate positions. I mean, unless you count working the front desk at Enterprise as a corporate job. Really? So take a look at what it says. Travel, tourism, service jobs. People, are those corporate jobs? Are those corporate careers? Because she said black women are ready to quit corporate America. Were the fields that she just named, are those corporate jobs, corporate fields? The way she's trying to make it sound, is that corporate? Really? I mean, you all tell me, is that what you were thinking when she said corporate? Travel, tourism, housekeeping? All right. Go ahead and do that. Just a little bit of the insight and analysis that you'll be seeing here tonight. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world. Pull up a chair. It's time to get down to the business. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black. Glad to be with you all here again for another edition of the program that laid the foundation upon which all of your red pill, MGTOW, high value posers, alpha male frauds, and all the other wannabes will be screwing this up. And yes, I know. Quoting me word for word, taking phrases word for word. I know. It's what they do. Follow the leader. Glad to be not following. So, Miss Santos's ad here, Miss Santos's article here, the next thing she goes into is, we're tired of working twice as hard for unequal pay. Now, first of all, this is a big old misnomer, but they keep using that phrase because it triggers people. But this is just flat out false. That in most circumstances, that simply doesn't occur. You've been misled into believing you were going to get something that you actually were never going to get. She says it will take more than a century for black women to reach pay equity in the U.S., and honestly, a lot of us just don't have that kind of patience. Among the women who filled out my career coaching application, now let me say that sentence again. Among the women who filled out my career coaching application, we're going to come back to that. The overwhelming majority, 84.5%, said higher pay was their top reason for quitting. The reality is that quitting one job for a new opportunity can often lead to much higher salary increases than remaining with your current employer. As a black woman who had the added economic disadvantage of graduating during a national recession, I learned to aggressively pursue jobs with higher pay in order to catch up to my peers. On average, I increased my income 38% each time I quit for a new opportunity. Now, this is on Yahoo now, by the way. So this is a woman here who is offering career coaching. Now she then says, this won't be the case for everyone, of course. Oh, first she says she can coach you through careers, and then tells you results may vary. But when the labor market is as desperate for talent as it is these days, I encourage working women to consider leveraging their skills for new, higher paying opportunities elsewhere. Then she goes on to the third point here, and this one doesn't age very well at all. We're launching our own businesses and starting side hustles. Let me interject here. Folks, black women have been having side hustles since antebellum slavery. I mean, that's not... come on now. That's not saying anything, but all right. Black women are among the fast growing group of entrepreneurs in the country. I think she meant to say fastest. Between 2014 and 2019, women-owned businesses grew by 21%, but black women-owned businesses grew at a whopping rate of 50%, according to a recent study by American Express. The number of black women running a side business outside of regular work increased 99% compared with an increase of 32% for all sidepreneurs. I joined the ranks of black women business owners earlier this year when I launched my own career coaching and consulting firm. Speaking from experience, the scheduling flexibility and financial upside alone have been enough reasons for me to kiss traditional 9-to-5 life goodbye for now. Goodbye for now. I want you all to understand this is an article from Yahoo. I want you to understand that. And I want you to understand that this is what Verizon, who owns Yahoo, this is what they will put out there. They are not really vetting this properly, and there's a lot of disinformation being disseminated, a lot of pipe dreams being sown, and a lot of people getting took. If you were misinformed by your mama and your grandmama, and then you come out here and you don't want to accept the reality of what actually has to occur, and then this happens, yikes. Yikes. Next, number 4, she says, we're tired of waiting to be recognized by higher ups. I've held dozens of coaching sessions. Book a session. All right, that's everybody hustling that. With black women looking for career changes, everybody's hustling and using that, and nobody's actually getting upgraded or getting any demonstrable changes, but all right. A common complaint is feeling overlooked for promotions and lacking positive feedback from their managers. Research shows it's not all in our heads. In a nationwide survey of more than 3,000 women professionals, nearly 2/3 of black women, 64%, said they felt they needed to work harder than white women to advance at work, more than any other racial ethnic group, according to Working Mother Media. Black women are also glaringly absent in senior management. Women of color make up 17% of entry-level positions, but just 9% of senior managers, 7% of VP-level positions, 5% of SVP positions, and 4% of C-suite positions, according to the 2021 Women in the Workplace report by leanin.org. And lastly, she says, it's exhausting being a black woman at work. It's hard to describe the mental and emotional toll that it takes to be a black woman in traditional corporate settings. Imagine enduring years of, by the way, nothing she's explained so far is a corporate anything. Now, there's the real thing about it, folks. This type of intellectual masturbation and superstitious fantasizing, nothing she said so far is a corporate job. But black women like to, ladies, can we just be brutally honest for a moment? And by the way, I want to thank everyone for tuning in here tonight. If you like what you're hearing, share the program, like the program. Very important. Go ahead and hit it with a like here so that we can keep up with the numbers of folks watching and let folk know that, yeah, people are actually digging what they're hearing. If it's hurting your feelings, I understand that. But hit the like button. Let's go ahead and have it. Because we're telling the truth about this. Nothing that she's named are corporate jobs. These are not corporate careers, corporate positions, but that's a trigger word because it makes entry-level employees at disposable jobs feel like they got a career. Folks, do you have a corporate job if you work for a corporation? Well, if that's the criterion, then all the checkout cashiers at Target and Walmart and Five Guys have a corporate job. But if you'll notice so far, she hasn't described anything like that now, has she? But if you're by that criterion, all of those are corporate jobs too. Was that what you were thinking of when you heard corporate job? Was that what you were thinking of? Was that what you thought? Just thought we'd give you a reminder there. She goes on to say, it's hard to describe the mental and emotional toll that it takes to be a black woman in traditional corporate settings. Imagine enduring years of microaggressions, dealing with managers who underestimate your talents, knowing you're likely paid less than your peers, and feeling as if you've got to work twice as hard to have the same opportunities as others. Now, this just sounds like it's kind of, sounds like we're kind of, repeating ourselves here. Sounds like we're kind of repeating ourselves. Just thought I would throw that in there. Okay? This is what they're promoting. Microaggressions, dealing with managers who underestimate your talents, knowing you're likely paid less than your peers, and feeling as if you've got to work twice as hard to have the same opportunities as others. Throw into the mix a pandemic that killed black men and women at higher rates than any other group and wreaked havoc on our finances, and it's a recipe for burnout. Even for the rare black woman like myself, all right. I'm sure she's faced a lot of discrimination. Even for the rare black woman like myself who managed to make it to the senior director level, the reality of being, quote, the only one still took a toll. I've been given outstanding performance reviews and yet told I was too intimidating to my colleagues. I've been confused for the office assistant. I've been critiqued for my vocal support for Black Lives Matter and dismissed as a diva. I've been patronized by well-meaning white superiors far too many times to count. I managed to carve out a stellar career I'm proud of, as do many women of color, but I can 100% understand why so many black women are simply fed up. So what I'm saying here is that a lot of ink will be spilled, a lot of pixels will be used, and It's kind of important that folk understand that. It's kind of important that folk understand that this is the type of misleading that you're being subjected to. Did you really know that was going to be the case? Did you really know that was going to be the case? Well, tonight I'm going to help you with a few things here because things are rough. And the reason why they posted this article is because if you'll remember at the beginning of 2020 on New Year's Day, New Year's night, I did a program. I was telling you all about when I came back, I did a program about New Year's night from Atlanta. And the struggle wasn't just real. The struggle was unreal. The struggle was unreal. And there are a lot of black women who have found themselves flat on their backsides, if you will. And the situation's not working because the math doesn't work. The math doesn't work at all. That's the problem. It doesn't work. And there's a reason why it doesn't work. Now, first of all, before I go any further here, I want to take an opportunity to address the writer of the article here. I want to take an opportunity to address them because I wouldn't want you to miss out on that. And I think it's kind of important that we do that. I wanted to discuss her website here, as you can see. And when she was talking about her website, well, this is the website here. MandyMoney.com. August 5th, written by Mandy Woodruff. How I Quit My Way Rich. I'm doing this because the internet is overflowing and absolutely flooded with posers, frauds, and people promising you the moon and delivering nothing. And I suppose the age-old adage of fool and his money never should have been together in the first place is true. I know that's not quite what the Bible tells you, but there's a sucker born every minute. And these folks know all the right trigger words to get you to buy in. Now, if you thought you were listening to possibly a reliable source of information, this is on Yahoo, by the way. This is on Yahoo's front page and everything. Oh, man. Miss Woodruff Santos is offering you the Just Quit Toolbook. Well, I'm sure she's going to go into withering detail here. No, she uses all of the usual tactics that sales folk on snake oil salesmen online use. Oh, trust me, I was there. Just a couple of months into my full-time job as an entry-level magazine editor in 2010, my boss invited me into a conference room, sat me down at the table with a stone-faced HR rep, and let me know my position had been terminated. I only had a few dollars to my name. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, I'm skipping forward ahead. Within 3 years of starting my career in 2010, I moved jobs twice and doubled my income from $30,000 to $60,000. Okay. I'm wondering if being a magazine editor paid 30 or 60. Neither one of those is fantastic, but all right. 3 years later, I nearly tripled my income from $60,000 to $163,000 after 2 other job moves. Now, unless you have a degree that is just really outrageously in demand, how in the world is she quitting jobs and then able to sit up here and increase your money? Because every time you quit a job, you're starting over. Every time you quit a job, you are starting over. She gives you no details because I know there's a bunch of folks right now talking about, well, damn, I jumped from one job to another. What in the hell is her secret sauce? Well, I'm sure she'll give you all the details for the low price of whatever. She goes on to say, and finally, between 2017 and 2020, after switching jobs twice again. So isn't that amazing? So far, she switched jobs, 7 times? Well, she moved twice. Yeah, I mean, she's just jumping all over the place. 6 times she says she switched jobs. 6 times. I took her home a career high of $300,000 annually, including salary, vested stocks, and bonuses. Oh, really? Okay. That means that over the course of a decade, I made 6 big career moves and increased my earnings tenfold. This simply would never, first of all, that's not earnings, really, to be totally honest, but all right. This simply would never have been possible had I not switched jobs multiple times. Well, black women jump jobs all over the place. When have you ever saw that? Every time you have to start over, when have you ever saw that as a key to winning? So I will let you all decide from what you just read here whether or not Miss Santos Woodruff is a reliable, credible source of information for what she told you. I'll let you decide if that's okay. If you think you're going to be able to quit your corporate job, as a barista at Starbucks, if you think and she's going to be able to help you with that, well, go right ahead and try that. But Miss Woodruff Santos has really raised a couple of things here that maybe we should take a look at. Maybe we should take a look at that because she mentioned a study by American Express. She mentioned a study by American Express. And I went to go look that study up. Yeah, I can actually be bothered to do that. I actually went to go look that study up. And man, oh man. Well, will you take a look at what they're telling you here? Now, she was talking about black women businesses. That's great till you read the fine print. And yes, there's a lot to go into it here. Side hustle, by the way. American Express using terms like that. That's not encouraging. It says, when looking at specific minority groups over the last 5 years, growth in side entrepreneurship is up. 99% among African American women, 70% among Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander women, 63% for Asian American women, 46% for Latino women, and 36% among non-Native American Alaska Native business women. Okay. Women of color are starting businesses at a remarkable 4 to 5 times the rate of all businesses. Now, it sounds like it's okay until you read the fine print. If you look at the second paragraph here, as of 2019, well, right above it at the end of the first paragraph, while the number of women-owned businesses grew 21% from 2014 to 2019, firms owned by women of color grew an astounding 43%, and African-American women-owned firms grew even faster at 50%. Sounds good, doesn't it, till you get to the next paragraph. As of 2019, women of color account for 50% of all women-owned businesses. An estimated 6.4 million women of color-owned businesses employ nearly 2.4 million people and generate $422.5 billion in revenue. Now, I want you to read that one more time. Some of you don't do very well at math, but did you see that? An estimated 6.4 million businesses owned by women of color, 6.4 million businesses that employ 2.4 million people? Wait a minute. You got more businesses than you've got people working at the businesses. Did you catch that? I mean, did you catch that part? Forget about anything else. Forget about the numbers. Forget about the revenue. Forget anything else. Did you realize what they just told you? They just told you that there are more women-owned businesses than there are people who work at the female-owned businesses. These ain't really businesses, damn it, is what I'm telling you. These aren't really businesses, Miss Woodruff Santos, Yahoo Finance. Yahoo Money, Yahoo News. These are not businesses. You would have found out a hell of a whole lot more if you would come and talk to me. I could have told you about this, but this is about blowing up people's egos and blowing up their heads. So in case you were wondering, yeah, that didn't get past me. There's a reason why I wanted to go into the numbers. I'm just quoting the very same American Express study that she did, but she didn't go into this now, did she? By the way, while she was sitting up here gassing your head up as a black female, don't worry, you can quit your quote-unquote corporate job as the drive-through clerk at Wendy's. That you can go ahead and do that. And you'll be able to quit your way to fame and fortune or whatever. But by the way, when you go over the numbers here and whatnot, this isn't looking so great. But yes, I could actually be bothered to go and take a look at the study, which is why I won't look silly after the fact. I actually could take the time to go and take a look at it. And when you take a look at this one thing alone, that this right here, it does add up. What it tells you is that you got a bunch of chicks out here doing a bunch of things, claiming to be business owners. So this is for the chick. A lot of you females out here, your business, you are a eyelash saleswoman, or you're running a eyelash / weave / shoe shine business is what you're doing. You're running in, you're selling, I'm selling nails and, rubber soles. Yeah, I mean, that's what you're taking a look at. The chick who says that she's, got a drive-through chicken shack / fake weave / purse glitter for your purses. Yeah, she's going 3 and 4, 7 different things, and still only got a median income of $30,000. Yeah, if you can be bothered to read these things. By the way, if you thought this was bad, now here's the real crazy thing about it. Okay, black women's businesses grew at a rate of 50%. Then you realize 6.4 million women of color businesses employing less than half that many people. Oh boy. But even as new minority-owned businesses are opening, the revenue disparity is increasing. In 2014, minority-owned businesses averaged $67,800 in revenue. Let me say that again. In 2014, minority-owned businesses, didn't say female-owned businesses, they said minority-owned businesses averaged $67,800 in revenue. By 2019, the average had dropped to $65,800, a decline of 3%. So these numbers were already not fantastic, and they have declined even more since then. African American women-owned businesses represented the highest rate of growth of any group in the number of firms between 2014 and 2019, as well as between 2018 and 2019. They started 42% of net new women-owned businesses, which is 3 times their share of the female population. All that tells me is there's a bunch of chicks out here struggling to get in where they fit in. By the way, does this count OnlyFans? I'm just wondering, does this also include all of the intrepid entrepreneurs over there at OnlyFans? It might. That might be something we want to check into there. Does this also include OnlyFans? And no, I'm not joking. Does this include them? If it does, there might be something to it. Does it include OnlyFans? I'm just wondering. I mean, doesn't that count as a business also? Or does it not? Does that not count as a business too? I mean, you all need to think about that for a few moments, because we're already dealing with janky math to begin with. We're already dealing with janky math. So just think about that for a few moments. Think about that for a few moments. If I'm hurting their feelings, okay, fine. If I'm hurting feelings by bringing this up, I can understand. I understand. If they're going to be mad at me, I'm going to give you a good reason to be mad at me, because I don't like it when folks sit up here and just say things for the sake of saying it. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Now, by the way, if you do the math, they probably are trying to say, though, that the minority-owned businesses, that's going to be more in line with this, to be totally honest, because if you do the math, if you divide the 422 billion by 6.4 million, the women of color owned businesses, if you divide 422 billion by 6.4 million, you end up with 65,000. So they may be actually referencing the actual income of the female-owned businesses here, saying, yeah, they've declined. Now, it gets worse when you go down. Oh, yes, I'm hurting feelings all night tonight. Ms. Santos won't tell you this part, but I will. Over half of all women-owned businesses are concentrated in 3 industries. And by the way, I've done the extra math here, so don't worry. We're going to go deep dive into this. Other services. Example, hair and nail salons and pet care businesses. So all the cat ladies and dog ladies and parakeet parents and all that stuff, okay. Other services, example, hair and nail salons and pet care businesses, accounted for 22% of all women-owned businesses, 2.8 million firms. Doesn't sound very firm to me, but all right. Folks, do you realize this? Hair. How many women are actually getting their real hair done? Nails. Pet care. What were the things that got shut down first when the pandemic started? Folks, what were the things that got shut down first? And even if the government had not stepped in to shut them down, what are the things that were most discretionary? Well, if it's discretionary, that means you are expendable. So what were the things that were most expendable? Bam. There it is. There it is. Well, guess what? They accounted for 22% of all women-owned businesses. Healthcare and social assistance, including child daycare and home healthcare services, accounted for 15% of all women-owned businesses, 1.9 million firms. Professional/scientific/technical services, including lawyers, bookkeepers, architects, public relation firms, and consultants. Boy, I'm really getting tired of all these consultants out here. I'm really getting tired of that, but okay. And consultants accounted for 13% of all women-owned businesses, 1.6 million firms. While these industries have, now listen to this part right here. Listen to this. Once again, the devil is in the details. And if you can't, while she was rattling off the number, while she cherry picked one statistic from this report, notice she didn't go over everything. Because if she had, you would have realized this report is actually rather damning. Now, you just heard me give you all these numbers of all other services and how many female-owned businesses account for, doing your hair or doing your dog's hair or doing your kid's hair and all this stuff. Then you get down here to this paragraph. And you notice once again, is that you read the first paragraph, makes you feel good. And then they throw the sobering water on you right after it. While these industries have the most women-owned businesses, they don't produce the most revenue. The 3 industries in which women-owned businesses have the highest total revenue are wholesale trade, 17%, retail trade, 14%, and professional, scientific, and technical services. So did you get that? So the places where women would be making the most money, that's not even where women are flooding to. And the reason for that is because women try to, on the average, they try to go to things that are less labor intensive. They really just want the same thing they'd be doing if they were sitting at home. Well, if you cannot get a man to do that for you, and that is the whole point I'm coming to here tonight. Ladies, at the end of the day, you are attempting to get the American workforce to substitute for you that which you were expecting or hoping for a man to do for you. You are hoping that a man is going to give you a nice cushy position. When you talk about running a daycare, that's being a mom. When you talk about doing hair, that's being a mom. When you talk about healthcare, that's being a housewife. You are trying to get the corporate environment to substitute for what a man would be having you do. And that's all you're really doing. And it's not, the shortfall is going to be too steep. It's going to be too big of a chasm to fill. That's the problem. So when you have some shysters out there telling you that they're going to coach you into anything, really, but into quitting corporate America, you ain't even in corporate America by the admission of this thing right here. These are not corporate jobs. Hair, nail salons, pet care, daycare, those are not corporate jobs. These are not corporate positions. This is just some entry-level manual labor, but that's it. And it's rough as hell out here right now because what it is doing to the females is it is devastating your psyches. It is absolutely devastating your psyche. From the utmost to the guttermost, shout out Brittany. You are looking to get a man to fill that gap because getting out here and doing social warfare in the corporate world is that's something males can do. You're not going to thrive at that. You are not going to be able to thrive at that. And these attempts to do so are doing nothing but devastating your psyche, which is why I keep bringing that up. If nobody else will, it's the reason why I keep bringing it up. You are looking for that stay-at-home mom position. A corporation cannot give you that. Only a man can give you that. And if you fail to convince the man that you open your womb to give you such a position, if you choose a guy who's simply not going to do that, or if you tell yourself, don't worry, I'll fill in the gap myself, ladies, your grandmama was wrong, your auntie and them was wrong, your mama dead ass wrong, and if you fell for the bait, you dead ass wrong. For those of you who haven't fallen for the bait yet, steer clear. There be dragons. And you only have a limited shelf life, A, to get a man, and B, to work. One way or the other, the bottom's going to fall out of this thing. Whether you like it or whether you don't. One way or the other, the music stops. And you'll be left with or without a chair when it does. You'll be left without a chair when it does. How about we go a little bit further into this? How about we go ahead and take a look and see what the government would say? And yes, I can actually be bothered to read government websites. If you're going to sit up here and tell people where folk fall, they better be able to read it. Well, take a look at this right here at the U.S. Department of Labor website. From August of this year, 5 facts about black women in the labor force. Isn't it very interesting that the government keeps such keen statistics on black women, black people, and particularly black women? Very interesting. Kind of sounds like they have an agenda at work there, huh? All right, now here's what they do, and they said the same thing they've been saying now for 200 years, which is we're making sure that you nigresses are not making any money compared to white folk. Black women earn 63 cents for every dollar earned by white, non-Hispanic men. And then you take a look at this right now. So what this tells you is if you take a look up here, you see this is the line up here for men's. When they say men's earnings, they're talking about white men. So they're saying for every dollar that white men earn, this is how much is earned by women, broken down by race here. So you can see what the women get. Asian women doing very well. They're getting 87 cents for every dollar that white men get. White non-Hispanic women are behind the Asians. They get 78%. Then you got black women, 63 cents. They get 63 cents. Then you got American Indian and Hispanic, which really just means illegal aliens. So, yeah, that's a hell of a chasm right there. What does it tell you? What it tells you is all this degree chasing doesn't work because you are most in debt and least elevated in income. Okay, behind just the illegals. The illegals are behind you, and if there are any Native Americans left, I guess they're behind you. They go on to say here that the wage gap is not driven by educational differences. Now, that's something else to take a look at here as well, because that's not quite true. Not quite true. And by the way, understand something here. If you're a person who doesn't want to actually know what the hell you're talking about, this is not the program for you. This program tonight is the definitive explanation with all of the details, diagrams, statistics, analysis, and government information here. All of the information all in one place. So keep up with this program tonight. And this will be one you want to share. Keep up with this one because we're showing you all the details directly from the source. Even controlling for education, black women are earning less than white men. So for the earnings here, for every dollar here, take a look at this. And this one is really crazy when you take a look at it. This one is really wild. For every dollar, the amount black women earn for each dollar earned by non-Hispanic white men with the same educational attainment. Well, if you're a dropout, hell, they're actually doing the best when you think about it. For every dollar that a white man who dropped out of school gets, a black woman gets 76 cents. So hell, the dropouts who went around chasing zaddy actually proportionally, in direct proportion to their white male counterparts, did the best. High school graduate, 68 cents. Some college or associate degrees. These are the chicks talking about they educated. All right, well, y'all should be kicking ass. No, getting ass kicked, more like it. 66 cents. For those of you with a bachelor's degree, and between associates and bachelors, that's going to be the overwhelming majority of you, 65 cents. It doesn't begin, it never actually corrects to where it was for those who dropped out of school, but it doesn't begin to reverse itself unless we talk about advanced degrees. So masters, PhDs, so on and so forth. It doesn't begin to correct itself unless you just keep going all the way down here, in which case, do you realize how damn far you are in debt to make a little over 2/3 of what your white male counterparts are getting? Take a look at how far into debt you have to go just to get to 69 cents. Now, to add insult to injury, black women have the highest labor force participation rate of all women. Typically, black women have higher labor force participation rates than other women, meaning a higher share of black women are either employed or unemployed and looking for work. Let me say that again. Black women have higher labor force participation rates than other women, meaning a higher share of black women are either employed or unemployed and looking for work. For instance, in 2019, black women's labor force participation rate was 60.5% compared with 56.8% for white women. Even in 2014, in the midst of the pandemic, the labor force participation rate was 58.8% compared to 56.2% for women overall. So that doesn't mean that they were all working, but this means that they were either working or damn well trying to. But doesn't that tell you a whole lot right there? Doesn't that tell you a whole lot? Yeah. That tells you a whole lot. But you know what tells you a little bit more here? What tells you a little bit more is the problem with this analysis. The black women have the highest labor force participation of all. That's a damning thing, actually. And it's damning because of what you read here next. Black women also have experienced high unemployment, especially in the wake of the pandemic. In 2020, black women's unemployment rate was 10.9% compared to 7.6% for white women and 8.3% for all women. This is no doubt reflective of the steep job losses and slow job recovery experienced by this group since early 2020, though even prior to the pandemic, their unemployment rate was relatively high, 5.6%, compared with white 3.2%, Asian 2.7%, Hispanic 4.7%. Black moms, too, have relatively high labor force participation rates. Black mothers, 2/3 of whom are equal primary or sole earners in their households, have higher labor force participation rates than other moms. This has historically been the case. Notice the next sentence. This has historically been the case, and 2020 was no exception. 76% were in the labor force compared with 71% of white moms, 62% of Hispanic moms, and 64% of Asian moms. So in reality, this is one of the few places where they're comparable to their non-black peers. But ladies, and to the people listening to me here tonight, the reason why I went over those statistics here, and if you thought I shocked you with the American Express one, the reason why I went over this right here, compared with other women, black women have the highest labor force participation rate. Black women are trying to work, are working or trying to work more than anybody else. And they are receiving less than anybody else proportionally for their efforts. So what is that telling you? That is telling you that your strategy doesn't work. That's the problem. What it tells you is that this strategy does not work. It isn't necessarily that you're not trying hard enough. It is that your way ain't working. This idea that a job will be a substitute for a partner in the home. What this tells you right here, black women have the highest labor force participation rate. That means that black women are getting themselves into messes they cannot get themselves out of, and they are desperately attempting to work their way and slave their way out of it. If you thought that getting pregnant by Pookie and Ray Ray and Mike and Lil Slug and cornbread and crawfish, if you thought that was cute, and a lot of you did, if you thought that just having a baby was just this fun amusement that you would have with yourself and whatnot, if you thought that exploring the world of work, because you don't need no man, and then you woke up in your late 20s and realized, I'll be damned, I need 2 or 3 men now for the mess I got myself in. If you thought that was going to be a victimless crime, you were wrong. You were wrong. Think about that for a few moments here. The reason why you're seeing this, that black women have the highest participation rate in the workforce, is because they are desperately attempting to make up the shortfall of a bunch of bad, disastrous decisions. They are attempting to work. They needed to choose a partner. And instead of choosing a partner, they selfishly chose themselves. And now they are so far behind that there is really no catching up, is what that really means. That's what that really means. You are so far behind now, it will be impossible for most of you to catch up. And that's not Jason Black talking, that's mathematics. And in the chat room, you're correct. Anybody who wants to thumbs down this, you're trying to thumbs down numbers. Can I dislike math? I don't like math. Ooh, he's giving us math. I don't like that. Thumbs down. Okay. You can dislike it all you want to, but it's not going to change the reality. It isn't going to change that. For those of you who do agree, can you hit the like button for me at least? Can we at least do that, since the haters want to hit the dislike button? For those of you who do agree with this, get up, let's do something. Hit the like button at least for me. And make sure you're sharing this program tonight. Because while other people are going to be out there giving out disinformation and messing it up, I don't do chit chat. That's not what I do. When you finish listening to what I have to say, you will have all the pertinent information that you need to make real positive changes. But first and foremost, I want you to understand, for those of you out there, ladies listening, do you understand that the workforce is ground your psyche into sawdust? Do you realize that the more you go out there, the less of a woman you become? Do you realize that the idea that you could live by the seat of your panties, you could have thrill sex all your life, and then there would be no consequences? The bill has come due. The bill has come due. That's the problem you're experiencing now. The bill is due. There is no running back from this. There is none. There is none. You're not going to be able to claw this back. It's going to be a bad situation. It's already a bad situation. It already is. And as bad as it has been up to this point, I would love to tell you I got better news for you, but really I don't. So let me go ahead and just lay this on you. from PBS.org. If you take a look at here, and this was from 2016, but it really is still prescient today. African Americans overrepresented among low-paying college majors. Very interesting that when you leave it in the hands of PBS, they try to spread this out to say African Americans to try to drag the men into it also. Unfortunately for them, I decided to do a little bit more digging. Unfortunately for them. And when you actually go digging into these things, you start to find out, actually, it's kind of going in a different direction there. For-profit graduate schools are popular with black women. And then when you take a look at what they're taking when they get there, according to an analysis by Carnevale, this is Anthony Carnevale, a research professor and director at the Georgetown University Center of Education and the Workforce. According to an analysis by Carnevale, or is it Carnevale, the most popular major among black women who enroll in for-profit graduate degree programs was business administration and management at 27%. Well, no wonder there are folks out there thinking they can sell you on the idea of booking a session and I will teach you how to become an entrepreneur. Unfortunately, that's not really the way it works, but all right. But if you take a look at that, they're playing upon that. Take a look at that. 27% of black women who enroll in for-profit graduate degree programs are going there trying to get an MBA, business administration and management, because they think that that's going to make them fake men. Particularly, they think it's going to make them fake white men. Particularly, they think they're going to make them fake white men. That's what they think. They think they're going to become fake white men. Well, white men go get MBAs, yeah, but understand an MBA is useless if you don't have connections. That's the problem. Without connections, an MBA is useless. Next up, you see, and that's at 26%. Next up is education, general education, 6.5%. You went all the way to a graduate program for education? Really? All right. Health and healthcare administration management, 4.3%. Registered nursing or registered nurse, 4%. Those ladies up there in business administration would have been a whole lot better off just becoming an RN when you really think about it. Human resources management, personnel administration, general, 3.8%. Imagine having to get a graduate degree just to be the HR manager. Business administration, management and operations, other mental health counselor. Oh, you mean a psychology degree, 3.1%. I'm sorry, no, it's business administration, management and operations, other, 3.1%. Mental health counselor, 2.9%. Public administration, 2.7%. Education, leadership, and administration, general, 2.2%. Curriculum and instruction, 2.1%. Psychology, other, 2.0%. Now, once again, what they do is they throw the first of the facts out there at you, and then they just drop the damn bomb on you when you get to this point. Jason, you are destroying their esteem here with the numbers. Ladies, I'm trying to save you. Well, I'm trying to save those of you who haven't made a mess of yourselves already. Meanwhile, after everything I just told you right there, the median earnings for black women with graduate degrees from any institution are $60,000 for business majors and $50,000 for education majors, according to the analysis. Imagine taking on all that debt, telling yourself that you were going to come out making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Imagine going through all of that and coming out and making $60,000. Think about that for a few moments. Think about that. That is the reason why this is so devastating. If you made bad decisions early on, if you told yourself, well, don't worry, I'll work my way out of it right now, and you are being ravaged in an environment where the math is against you. It's not Jason Black's opinion that is against you. It is the math that is against you. Haven't had enough yet? Oh no, I'm here to break everything in half here. If you go to the National Science Foundation.gov, oh yes, this is exhaustive. It's not just exhausting, this is exhaustive. Rollo Tomasi, Kitten Heels, Donovan Dalton, nobody goes into the withering analysis and investigation that you're going to see tonight. So this program here, facts, figures, numbers, this is the definitive program for that. If you want to know where the facts really come from. You take a look on your screen here, field of degree. This is from the National Science Foundation, women, minorities, and persons with disability in science and engineering. And they actually have it broken down by field by degree, women, men, and racial and ethnic groups. Well, why don't we go ahead and take a look at black women by field. So as you can see here, black women by field. Take a look at this. Biological sciences, 4.23%. Computer sciences, 2.6%. Mathematics and statistics, 2.3%. Physical sciences, 2.8%. Psychology, 9.1%. Almost 10% are in psychology. Social science, and not helping each other. Social sciences, 6.8. So 16% of your degrees are psychology and social sciences. Engineering is less than 1%, less than a percent. We're most educated. The degrees you're going for are worthless. You have a worthless education. That is what you have. You have a worthless education. Somebody just needs to have the honesty to say that. But the education is worthless. National Science Foundation. And these are not my opinions. These are the facts. These are the numbers compiled so they can make sure they know whether you are succeeding or whether you are not. And they know that you're not succeeding. I'm just here to explain to you why. Ladies, you cannot replace a man. The great experiment of being the strong, independent woman is a failure. Even if you quote unquote succeed, you will only succeed in becoming a man. And men do not create children. I put on tonight's program here because when I saw that article from Yahoo talking about black women are going to leave the corporate workforce and whatnot, first of all, they're not even getting in. First off, they're not even getting in. And the reason that so many of you can't be helped is because you don't have reliable sources of information to go to even discuss this. Some jackass on YouTube making up crap as they go along and then telling you that you're wrong. That's not going to help you. You need somebody who actually knows what the numbers are and then can tell you why it's occurring. It is occurring because when you were 19, 20, 21 years old, you had the wrong priorities. Are you willing to admit at this point that this is not fun anymore? Are you willing to admit at this point that this is devastating on your psyche? Are you willing to admit to this point that you are not really, that you thought you were going to be more willing because you thought being stubborn was a good personal characteristic? Can you just admit that being stubborn was the kiss of death? Are you willing to accept that being stubborn wasn't just a momentary diversion? This was the kiss of death. Are you willing to admit that? Because, by the way, it's not like everybody can't see it. I'm talking to the young females here because there are other studies out there, by the way. There are other ones out there that I didn't even go into here tonight. And basically what they were talking about is when you take a look at what happens, the key difference they're pointing out, I was looking at one from Brookings. I was looking at one from I was looking at one from Brookings. I was looking at one from Pew. And one of the key findings that they came up with here was, by the way, do you realize that the white women who are doing better, the ones who are married, are doing exponentially better? And even if the guy doesn't make more money than them, they're doing exponentially better. Just being married to somebody is better than attempting to try to shoulder this on your own. That is what they're saying. That the statistics bear out that being married to someone, now we're not talking about Pookie and Ray Ray, because the first thing y'all think, oh good, let me give, that's how you got into this mess, is by chasing your sexual perversions as opposed to being a competent, logical adult. No, it doesn't mean, ooh, Jason said I can go lay up with cornbread and crawfish. Okay, you already laid up with cornbread and crawfish. It's time to do something a little bit, why don't you do something intelligent for a change? How about that one? Just saying. So what you're finding out here is you're not going to be able to even change that. I started off this year, and we're coming to the end of 2021. I started the beginning of 2021 saying that it was going to be a rough ass ride out here. If you'll all remember, I started this year warning women it was going to be a rough damn ride. And man, that was probably an understatement. There is going to be more psychological and emotional wreckage at the end of 2021 and 2022. Oh man, you don't even want to know what's coming down over there. It's only going to get worse from here. And did anybody have the guts to tell you this? Not just to tell you that, oh, it's going to be rough, but to explain to you exactly why it is. I put up a video earlier today, and if you take a look at the community tab here on The Business, I put up a video earlier here today. It was from PBS Frontline, The Retirement Gamble. As you all know, that's one of my favorite programs ever. The Retirement Gamble and Money, Power, and Wall Street, as far as I'm concerned, for PBS Frontline, those are two quintessential documentaries that everyone needs to watch. But The Retirement Gamble, for the purposes of our discussion tonight, is very, very prescient and critical. Because the reason why I don't like fakers and frauds taking the information that I give out there is because they're going to screw it up. And without having the proper context, people are messed up about it. Years ago, when Susie Orman came out and talked about the number that you needed for retirement, she said it right after I did a program talking about it. I didn't say she got it from me, but we both came to the same conclusion. You need about at least $2 million. If you go over the math of this, you understand why. Take a listen to all my fakers, posers, and copycats, and they'll be repeating it next week. Fakers, posers, and copycats, pay attention, because you're going to be repeating this and screwing it up. If you're going to repeat it, at least get it right. The problem is, the average life expectancy after retirement is roughly 10 to 15 years. But in some cases, you're going to have 20 years. Well, what that means is that from the time you quit working, you got about 20 more years if you quit at the average life expectancy. You got about 20 more years. So what that means is that the amount of money that you have in your bank or your retirement account, now that you're not making income, whatever you saved up is going to be what you use to finance your life with. Well, if you are a person who makes, for example, $50,000 a year, and if you're going to live for 20 more years, that's going to be at least $1 million. That's assuming you don't have any other expenses. That's just $50,000. That's just $50,000. If you make $100,000 a year, you're going to need $2 million at least. At least. Notice, we didn't say that this is the most you need. You're going to need at least $2 million. That's not Jason Black talking. That's math. If you are making if you're financing your life right now, and let's just say you live in, Atlanta, Miami, DC, let's just say that you live there. Well, by math, if you're making $100,000 a year to live 20 more years, you're going to need at least $2 million. That is not counting any unexpected expenses. That is not counting any, extra expenses. God forbid you have a serious medical ailment or something like that. Something happened to the house. You got to get a new home. You got to move, something like that. That's just assuming that you can pay for what you got and nothing else happens. You would need at least $2 million to make it for the next 20 years. And if you live 25 more years, yikes. If you retire at 65 and you live to 80, just understand there are too many years. You got more years than you had money. And that's if you had $2 million, and that's just to continue at what you were doing. Just to continue with the rate you were at just $100,000 a year. That's math. That's math. That is not counting if your lifestyle needs to increase. Yes, you're correct. That's not counting inflation. That is not counting unexpected expenses. It's not counting any of that. That's not counting a rising cost of living, because if you think you're going to do like the Golden Girls and retire to Miami, let me tell you, Miami is a hell of a lot more expensive than it was back in the 80s when Miami Vice and NBC were making TV shows about it. So, and think about anywhere you want to live. It doesn't really matter whether it's Dallas, San Diego, Seattle. Do you think that in 20 years that what you're making today is going to be enough to live there? What you're making today, which is a good upper middle class income, that'll be cat food money in 25 years. Are you kidding me? Have you seen the rate of inflation? Have you seen the skyrocketing cost of housing and gentrification? It ain't slowing down. Have you seen the average cost of a car today? Have you seen that? Hell, just about everything on the dealer lots, if you can find anything on the dealer lots, is going for above MSRP. Those are cars. You think your beater is going to hold up for 25 years? Are you kidding me? Come on now, let's have some rationality here. Don't seep off into daydreaming. So right now, the money that you're making right now might be fine when you're able-bodied, but when you get retired and the diabetes is set in and the high blood pressure is whooping your ass, and you're not going to be able to get out here and shake it and move like you used to be able to do there. It's going to have to last you. It's going to have to last you. And that figure, when we say $2 million, $3 million, I know my copycats love to use that number. They took it from me but never put it in context. Which is, yeah, you need context. That number is not minor. Understand that number is not minor. And if you are making $40,000 a year, let's be very clear, you ain't gonna make it. If you're making $60,000 a year, mathematically speaking, you can't make it. But Jason, oh hell. But Jason, oh hell. Let me talk. Jason, you need to let him talk now. Let him talk. Okay. But Jason, yes. Well, you know, I makes $75,000 a year. And I works me some good jobs at General Electrics. And we's got us a 401k and my employer matches my contributions. That is why I told you that you need to go to the community page there and go ahead and take a look at that video I have posted there from PBS Frontline, the retirement gamble. And even though that was from like 2013, all of the information in it except how much the guy said you need, because now that has increased. The only thing that is no longer accurate is how much he said you needed, because he said $1 million. Now we're over $2 million. 8 years later, all it took was 8 years for that to double, and God help you in 5 more years. But you do understand, the point of the retirement gamble documentary was when they were taking a look at the 401k. First of all, the 401k was never intended to be a retirement vehicle. The 401k is part of the tax statute. It was put in as a sweetheart deal for Xerox executives. And when it went to tax court, yes, there is a specific court that takes care of litigating tax law. The IRS ruled that the 401k, was available to everybody, not just Xerox executives. So corporations decided, well, hell, at GE and General Motors and Ford and everything else, AT&T, you name it. Well, instead of paying people defined benefits retirements, we're going to give them defined contributions. So instead of the company paying for their retirement, they save 6%. Yeah, they didn't save this huge whopping amount. They save 6% by forcing the employees to switch to a 401k. And they told you that was a retirement vehicle. It was never a retirement vehicle. It was never intended to be a retirement vehicle. It was a tax shelter for Xerox executives. They managed to get that in the tax code back in the 70s. It was a tax shelter for them. That was never intended. Nobody ever sat down and said, let's hammer out a retirement vehicle. The corporations got together and said, hell, if the government allows us to get away with this, we'll just maneuver all of y'all suckers in this thing and call it a retirement vehicle. But that's not what a 401k is. It was never intended to be that. They just bastardized it and told you that's what it is, to get you off of their payroll so that they don't have to pay for a lifetime retirement like they used to have to do. And that's it. Well, here's the big thing about the 401k. The 401k, if you saw the retirement gamble, it really only works as long as you satisfy 3 or 4 crucial criteria. Number 1, you have to begin working early. That's the first thing. So you can't wait until your 30s and let me go out here and go see if I can go have 4 or 5 kids and whatnot. No, that's not going to work. That is not going to work. You can't do that. You're not going to be able to do that. So if you're telling yourself, well, I'll wait until I'm 10 years into the workforce and whatnot, and then we'll get things together. No, that will not happen. You're going to have to make a 401k work. You got to start early. You got to start early. So from the time you can begin working, you have to start then, because you're going to need as many years as you can get to put something into the 401k. Number 2, you cannot have any significant periods of unemployment. Now that one right there is going to eliminate most black people. Systemic racism alone is going to eliminate that for most black people. So to make a 401k work, number 2, you can't have any significant gaps in your employment. You can't be working for 4 years and then have a year off or 2 years off while you're trying to find another job and skip from one place to another there. And let me say that again, you can't sit up here and work for a couple of years and then decide, well, we're just going to skip around to a different job and it's going to work out for you. No, that's not going to work out for you. No, it's not. Shout out Ms. Santos. No, it doesn't work. That doesn't work. So don't think that's going to happen. If you have a 401k, you just destroyed your 401k. Unless you can come back with something that makes 2 or 3 times what you were making, because you're going to have to make up the shortfall. Third, you are going to have to work the entire life. You're going to have to put in for your entire working life. So you got to start early. You can't have any gaps in your employment, and you're going to have to run the entire race. No, they didn't explain any of this to you when you went to your job, when your mama was telling you you don't need no man, and your mama couldn't do the math either, and now you're on the internet with a bunch of posers and frauds and they can't do the math. By the way, did they tell you you're going to have to run the whole damn race, which means the whole 25 years? And last but not least, and this is the one that is the reason that most people's 401ks will never work, your 401k, your IRA, your Roth, whatever, the reason that it will not work is because, oh yeah, and there's one more detail, one more requirement that we didn't tell you about when you thought that a 401k or the retirement, your Roth was going to save you. Those 401ks and Roths only work if you are already a high income earner. In other words, you have to be able to put enough money in that it's significant enough that at the end of your working life, the $2 or $3 million is there. And for most of your IRAs and Roths, you're not going to come anywhere near 2 million. You'll barely come near 1 million because the math doesn't work out. Now, if you make $100,000 a year and you start making $100,000 a year in your late 20s and you work for 30 years and you put in the maximum amount into your IRA, your 401k, whatever the vehicle is for your entire working life. So you start early, you get a high income early, you have no gaps in employment, and you put in the max amount that you can every single year for the whole 25, 30 years. Well, a 401k will work as a supplemental income for you. Now, for retirement, yeah, the 401k and the Roth will work for you. For the rest of your coworkers, they're screwed. But for you, you might be all right. Think about that for just a few moments. How many of you are going to be able to satisfy all those criteria I just named? How many of you would actually be able to do that? The overwhelming majority of you cannot. And for the women, there's just no way. Statistically speaking, there's just no way. You're being put into a damn meat grinder. Your non-black counterparts are not playing the same game you're playing. They're saying, oh no, I'm bringing backup. I'll be damned if I'm going to walk out there and go try to fight this battle on my own. It doesn't work. Your attempt to do so is going to end in calamity and in disaster, which is exactly where you are right now. The women are desperate to quit their jobs today, and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get bad. as the economy recovers. They're talking about, I was talking here before about how it is. You got a bunch of places out there right now. They're paying $18 and $20 an hour to start at McDonald's and everything. That's great and that's wonderful and all. That will not last. It will not last because it cannot last. And they are looking to see how the jobs that they got rid of, for the most part, they're trying to ramp things back up here. But sooner or later, it's going to become cheaper for them to either shut it down, automate it, or phase it out. There's not a bunch of people sitting around to replace that for you. There's not a bunch of people who can sit here and replace that for you. You are not going to be able to compensate for the lack of a partner. And what I did tonight was I gave you the math of why it doesn't work, and then I showed you the results of attempting to do the foolish and the impossible. Now, you can sit here and destroy your psyche if you wish to. And most of you have. If you want to know what is driving the obesity epidemic among black women, is because they are outrageously misled, stressed out, completely aimless. Learn from an early age. Mama got no plan. Grandmama got no plan. There's no plan when you go to the grocery store to shop for food. There's no plan when you look at the bills. There's no plan when you go to get a job. There's no plan for anything. There isn't one. And if you can come under some management, if you can come under some competent male management, that can change. But ladies, just having a partner, period, puts you in an exponentially better position than attempting to do any of this on your own. It doesn't even matter if he makes less money than you do. As long as he is a consistent worker and everything, you would do a whole lot better to have a man who is consistent than to be out here trying to do this by yourself, period. No matter what you might think or what you want to define, you would be better off having a partner, period, than out here trying to swing this by yourself. Because the odds are overwhelmingly against you. It doesn't matter how smart you tell yourself you are. The numbers are very, very clear. Black women are at the bottom for a very obvious reason. But then again, maybe that's just me. The telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933, your personal access code to the program that laid the foundation upon which all of these other posers and copycats will be stealing what they heard here tonight and then trying to remix it next week and messing it up because it's not going to give all the conclusions that they want either. But right now I'm focusing on what the women need here. And we'll talk about the men soon enough. We'll get around to that. Hell, we did plenty of talking to the men last week, but we'll be discussing that. But ladies, if you disagree, by the way, if you disagree, the phone lines are open for you too. The number is 646-787-1933. Go ahead and give us a call. But yes, they are desperate to quit their jobs. I began this year by pointing it out. I began this year by pointing out that it was going to be rough. It was going to be horrendous. It was going to be terrible. And it's not getting any better. And as the economy recovers, that will actually make it worse than it was previously. That'll actually make it worse. It'll make it worse because you're going to find that there's a huge crunch that you were unprepared for. That's what you're going to find out. You're going to find out there's a huge crunch that you were unprepared for here. And you were fed a myth and a fairy tale that you were going to be able to get out of this. That maybe you were going to be able to get out of this by just being hard-headed about it. But, and I also understand you've had plenty of people sitting up here and feeding bloated egos, which is why it's no good to have a bloated ego, ladies. They're feeding bloated egos and vanity. And boy, they just set you up real damn smooth now, didn't they? They just set them up real damn smooth in that regard. They got them screwed up all over the place here. What they did was they sat up here and told them, oh, well, don't worry. This is going to work out for you. This will work out. Well, they lied to every damn body here, didn't they? This is a commercial from Amazon. I posted this earlier today. This is a commercial from Amazon. You want to talk about corporations investing in promoting foolishness and silliness? This is a $1 trillion multinational corporation. And for those of you who haven't seen this commercial, strap in and hang on tight.
Once upon a time, there lived a princess with really long hair who was waiting for a prince to come save her. But really, who has time for that?
Let's go. Feeling myself. I'm feeling
She
myself.
ordered herself a ladder with Prime one-day delivery, and she was out of there.
I want some hood girls looking back at it and a good girl in my tax bracket.
Now, her hairdressing empire is killing it. And the prince? Well, who cares? Prime changed everything.
Let me back that up so you can hear that last part one more time.
Now, her hairdressing empire is killing it. And the prince? Well, who cares? Prime changed everything.
Her hairdressing enterprise is killing it. This is Amazon. Y'all thought the Hallmark mahogany commercials were the worst thing you ever saw. You thought the Hallmark mahogany commercials were the worst thing you had ever seen. Okay. They put big money behind promoting this stuff. They put big money behind it. Largest corporation in the world. They got Nicki Minaj thotting it up. And this is what you have them promoting. So I understand there are a lot of bad influences out there that are trying to mislead you and everything else, but you need to sit up here and sidestep all that. Don't get caught off in the foolishness. You need to be smarter than that. If they're not going to look out for your best interest, at least you look out for your own. Phone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the business. Let's go ahead and hit the telephone lines here. And by the way, I plan on doing a program here. I'm going to be doing an open forum program probably next week. I'm probably looking at doing an open forum program next week. Never done one here before, but this is certainly your opportunity to go ahead and do that. If you want to call and whatnot, I'm pretty much going to, it'll be open forum. So just anything you want to call me about, folks who love it, folks, haters, lovers, everybody, it doesn't matter who you are and whatnot. I have an open forum program about that. I don't know. I might even have a special phone line for haters. Might have a special phone line for haters and whatnot, and who want to dispute things. I might open it up. So it just depends. But I'm looking at next week to go ahead and do that. So looking to join us for that. Let me go ahead and get caller from area code 713. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes. My name is Tony, calling from Houston, Texas.
Tony from Houston. What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, you covered so much. I'm a 65-year-old black man, so I've seen a lot of this over the years as what we have today. You're right in every respect, and literally everything you have said. Black women are overly indebted in the education arena. They owe billions to federal student loans, both federal and private, of which many of them will never repay. And just as a side note, you did mention the United States federal government will deduct any Department of Education loans from your Social Security. So if you make it to 65 and there's any money left, they will simply take it. They will take it from what you owe when you were 23. Now, as far as you're quite right, many women are not even in a corporate environment. Yahoo News is an advertising board. This person who wrote this so-called article is, in fact, that is an ad. It's not news. It's an ad. And that person is purporting to be somewhat of a news person or a reporter writing a story on this subject. But what they're really doing, obviously, is trying to get customers to sign up for this phony consulting or whatever she's got going to propel you into the corporate world. And lastly, you're right. All the ills that black women have, that befall black women today, they earn less than all other women, no matter what the educational level, because their educational degrees are certainly not in the income-producing areas that this economy needs. They're in the social areas, which they do not spend money on. And I'm married. I've been married for 29 years to a black woman. She's a college educated woman. I'm educated, college educated man. We've been married 29 years. We built a very good life together and an excellent nest egg. And I have to tell all women, you're right. They say they don't need a man. 2 incomes are better than 1.
That's the only backup plan that's really going to serve you. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Tony, let me get caller from area code 317. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from? Turn off your speakers. Caller from 317. You're on live. Okay. Caller from 317 was supposed to call in. But caller from 317, like I say, if they're not available, they can be banned. That's not a problem either. Caller from area code 661, you're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, yeah. How you doing, Jason? Yeah, my name is RJ. I'm from the West Coast. I've been listening to you for years, man.
Okay, RJ, where at on the West Coast? That's a large piece of geography.
Nevada.
Okay, let me try this one more time. What city are you calling from, RJ?
Las Vegas.
RJ from Las Vegas, and what's on your mind?
All right, my thing is this, Jason. You know, and I support you. I'm not attacking you. I listened to you years ago, back in 2010, 2011, 2012, and I thought you had a good message in the beginning. You would tell black people to get their own businesses and stuff, and economic empowerment and that kind of stuff. That stuff was good, but as time has gone on, especially with this platform, The Business, I believe that your message has changed a lot, brother. And I feel that right now what you're doing with this broadcast right now is you attacking black women, for all the years that, these women have rejected you. And and you've had issues with them and stuff, and that's really what you're doing, brother. And I hate to have to say that because I support you.
Proximity in order to further segregate the crux of my venereal infection. Now, if I may retain my liquids here for one moment, I'd like to continue the redundance of.
Oh, go ahead. By all means, keep talking.
Well, see, my thing is Jason, and I like you, Jason. I support you, but I know you got a lot of issues with these women, man. And you want.
Is there anything that I have said that is factually inaccurate? Tell me the factually inaccurate statement that I have made.
As far as factually inaccurate, okay, when you say that, okay, these women, they're you're trying to be dismissive of their businesses and stuff like that, and them leaving corporate America. This is something that should be celebrated.
Okay, sir, let me try this again because I know factually is probably a very large word for you. Sir, was there anything that I said that was factually inaccurate and untrue?
Okay, yeah. So you're basically trying to say.
All right. So now notice he's not saying that anything I said was inaccurate. What he's saying is he identifies with the feminine and he feels hurt with his satin thong on. But what he's not saying is that anything I said was wrong. He's just saying, well, damn, you talking about my mama and these bummy ass hoes I lay up with. Well, okay, if that's your life, that's your life. But you notice you haven't said anything I said was wrong. And that's the only thing that matters is if there was something I said that was factually inaccurate. Now, if you had that, you'd actually have a point. All you sound like is a sissified mama's boy upset because facts are hurting your life. That's all. But you're not saying anything is actually wrong. You're just saying that you're having a hard-ass time with reality, and that's not my problem. Your failure in life does not constitute a problem on my behalf. So maybe it's time for you to just get your life together, man. Maybe you just need to get your life together.
I'm not a failure. I'm far
Yeah,
from a failure.
yeah,
First of
you
all,
are.
I'm a business owner.
No,
I'm a business owner
you're
myself.
just
Okay.
one of the
I'm a
6.4
trucker. I'm a
one of the
truck driver.
6.4 million businesses. I'm
And
sure.
and
Yes, he's one of those.
I got my own authority. Okay, so
No,
let's
sir,
not
you
go
have
there.
no authority. None, no authority.
Let's not go there, brother.
No, you have no authority. None.
You know what I mean?
No, none. There's none.
I came on here respectful of you. I expect the same respect.
Sir, respect is earned. And that's disrespectful. You say the stupid mess you did. I said, tell me what was inaccurate. You've had several times to say that. Not once did you say that. So in other words, you just have a lot of psychological and emotional issues.
I'll tell you what was inaccurate. I'll tell you what was inaccurate. What you're saying is that you're saying that these businesses are not making money because you said there were 6 million female businesses, but they only had 2 million employees. Okay, well, a sole proprietorship can be just as profitable and can actually support other businesses. How do you know if a sister who has a sole proprietorship, how do you know she's not buying her supplies and stuff from other sisters?
Because if she has to start 3 businesses to make $65,000, that she would have been better off just getting a husband.
Okay, now,
did y'all see it right there? Now, I hit him with math, and he's not going to say the math is wrong. Well, why you got to say that there, dude? Why are you? Do you know how foolish you sound? You're at war with math, sir. You're at war with mathematics. Do you know how dumb that is?
Like, where did you get the number 3 businesses? Like, how did she start 3 businesses?
Okay, did you hear the beginning of the program when I went through all this? Because you claim you did. I imagine he got lost. Okay, sure. Then you got lost in the woods when I sat up and literally went. By the way, people, this is the level of intellect you have to talk like this. I already covered all of this, and I don't remember when you did. Everybody's laughing now because they're like, yeah, we all heard this. And meanwhile, Waldo Faldo here on the phone was too busy trying to get M&Ms out from under the couch to eat them, to be listening to what was said. 6.4 million businesses, yet 2.34 million employees. You got more female businesses than you have employees. Duh. Okay,
now, a business value is not determined by the amount of employees.
I want you all to remember one thing right here. This is how a lot of females get themselves caught up. A lot of females get themselves caught up because, quite frankly, I mean, if you're slow, you're going to get caught up. Ladies, don't let the fact that some dude can sit up here and babble, and don't let the fact that some clown can sit up here and go through semantics, that you tell him about facts and mathematics, and he immediately begins talking about his opinion. There's a lot that can be very soothing and very comforting to you, but just understand that is not going to help you. RJ, you have done an excellent job at illustrating exactly everything I've said. Thank you very much for your ADHD back of the school bus banana chewing call. Ladies, that's the kind of guy who will sit up here and pander to you. He'll sit up here and kiss your ass, but what he will not do is elevate you. There was nothing I said that was demeaning or otherwise. It is truthful. And it is a sobering piece of honesty. He doesn't want people to be honest. Why? Because he has Stockholm syndrome. He identifies with abusive mothering. He doesn't identify with mathematics. What I'm saying is math. This isn't something for you to like. This is something for you to understand. Now, if I were making up numbers, if he could show you that the numbers I showed you were not real, they were false. Jason made up a website. Jason claims American Express said this and they actually didn't. Jason claims the National Science Foundation said this and they actually didn't. Jason claims the Department of Labor said this and they actually didn't. You know, like some other folks out there lie about male and female weight. Yeah, now if that were the case, it would be different. There's nothing I said that was factually inaccurate. Can we have a conversation about that part? Or maybe you don't want to. Caller from area code 317. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello.
Turn off your speakers.
Okay. My speaker's off. Can you hear me?
What is your name? Where are you calling from?
Yes, this is
Now, you
Angela,
said your
and I'm
speakers were
calling
off, you
from
crack
Naptown.
baby. Go turn your speakers off. What is wrong with you?
My speaker is off. I'm trying to listen to the broadcast.
Okay,
and
folks,
you
y'all
at
got
the
to
same
understand
time,
the roaches in her Section 8 apartment are probably big enough they can sit here and work the remote control on the TV or the cell phone. People can literally still hear me, and you tell me I turned it off. This is your brain on drugs.
Okay, you funny. Okay.
And you're not.
Be real.
And you're not funny. That's not humorous at all. That really isn't. How old are you?
I'm old enough.
Ma'am, let's try this one more time. How old are you?
I'm kicking close to 50.
Okay, I don't care about close to 50, ma'am. I'm hosting a program here, and so far you've brought the IQ of the room down collectively about 10 points. What is your name? Or if you need some help to go and find it with crayons, I'll give you a few minutes.
Okay, your IQ went down because I said my name was Angela, and I'm from Naptown.
What in the world is that?
Naptown? Well, it's Naptown, people know.
Okay. Well, fellas, this is what happens when your baby mama gets her Obama phone. She just calls around all crazy, and they're almost 50 years old. Nobody knows where you are, ma'am, and you're not important enough for people to know where you are. If you don't know the name of the city that you live in geographically on the map, you can just say that instead. I'm sure it's a whole lot harder to say that than it is to say what you just did. Do you even know what city you live in?
Waste time about my city.
No, ma'am. You are a waste. You are a waste of time, ma'am. The perspiration that your hood rat mama used to eject you from her womb would have been better spent playing tic-tac-toe. It really would have been better spent doing that. Why don't you do the world a favor?
Mr. Black.
Get off the phone, go back to rehab, see if the doctors will let you in the door. But we're not going to talk to you tonight. And by the way, if she says anything else in the chat room, you can ban her. We got by the way, if you all want to know, that is the caliber of IQ of individuals who have something else to say. I want to dispute about something right here, but turn off your speakers. They off. Hear me in the background. Well, they kind of off over there. And you can hear the rats opening the refrigerator and getting themselves a glass of orange juice. You can hear them in the background. You can hear it. You can hear the way it was reverberating off the walls. One of those old ass 1986 televisions with the vacuum tubes in the back of it and light up all orange. Remember that when you were a kid? She still got one of those. I want to talk. I'm gonna be 50. You're 50 and still dumb as hell. I'm doing this no wonder she's upset tonight. She's got plenty of reason to be upset tonight. As old as she is, what she demonstrated is, ladies, when you are too much of a disciplinary problem, as I've said here since the very beginning, listen up, RJ. I know you upset and angry as hell because I tell females to have standards. So I know you don't like that. Ladies, when you are a disciplinary problem, you are uncoachable. Just understand the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to become a little old broad, living in a rent-controlled Section 8 apartment, calling up people in the middle of the night, complaining about things you have no control over. You have no control over it because you are the problem. She is a perfect example of what will lead you down that road. She literally could not make it through a telephone call. Literally. Couldn't make it through a phone call. Literally all she had to do was answer the phone. Hello, my name is Angela. I come from Shack City. All right, Angela, what's on your mind, such as it is? And understand something. Well past middle age. Well past middle age. And that's the best she can come up with. Well past middle age. No, it's not funny. Jason, you funny. Well, this isn't humorous at all. Because the problem is that we don't have a bunch of sensible older women to be able to talk to these younger women and keep them from ending up like this. The older chicks are trying to figure out how to get the young girls screwed up along with them. Understand something. To you young females listening here tonight, you better not be offended because these old hoes want all of you to be suffering along with them. These old hoes are by themselves. They are alone, and they want all of you to be in the same boat with them. They hate their lives. They despise their existences, and they want all of you to be sitting there sad and lonely along with them. And it's not accidental. They're setting all of you up. It's not accidental. Call from area code 254. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, good evening. My
Turn
name is
off
Tina.
your
I'm calling from
speakers.
Texas.
Boy, I'm telling you, this is a crowd here tonight. This must be Kitten Hill's audience. People can clearly hear me echoing in the background, ma'am. You can clearly hear it.
Well,
And
sir, my
sitting,
speaker's off.
she's sitting here saying,
The channel's off.
she's literally sitting
The
here
phone
saying the
is
speaker's not
muted.
on, and people can literally hear me behind you.
Yeah, it's off. I just wanted to call in.
Where are you
basically,
from, Tina?
I am from Chicago,
Okay.
born and raised.
Didn't you just say Texas?
I live in Texas. Yes, sir.
And where in Texas
however,
do
I
you
did
live?
wanted to come
And where
thank
do you live
thank you
in
for your
Texas,
channel.
Tina?
I live in Fort Hood, Texas.
All right, Tina in Fort Hood, Texas, and what is on your mind?
I wanted to thank you for your channel. Thank you for your message today. I just wanted to come in and add a tidbit on your subject matter of today. I went ahead, I took a journey, moved out of the country 5 years ago. Prior to that, I was the regular bonquisha, colorful weave, fingernails chick. I had a situation that got me an opportunity to live overseas and work overseas. And I had an experience that I would love to share with the women that are here in America.
Okay.
If that's okay with you.
Well,
Okay.
certainly, if you would like to share your experiences, you can submit $50 for advertising.
I could submit it, but this is pertaining to what you're talking about tonight.
I'm hosting
This is pertaining to what you're
I'm
talking about
hosting a
tonight.
program, and nobody asked to hear about your experiences.
Which is understandable. I'm addressing what you came up with. The subject you came up with, I'm addressing it. This is a tidbit. That's it. You mentioned earlier about the women, their attitude.
Caller from area code 612. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Now, I hope you are not as rude to me as you were to the last two women, Jason.
Well, that's
Okay?
a pretty
This
bad
is
way to
Michelle
start a
from Minneapolis.
conversation.
This is Michelle with Bob Rewards Club.
Okay.
Bob stands for Black-owned businesses. You know who
Ma'am,
I
take
am.
your phone off a speaker.
Okay. Can you hear me better?
Okay. Your name is Michelle, and you work for Bob's Furniture Rental?
Funny. Bob Rewards Club. Bob stands for Black-owned business.
Oh, Bob's
Been around
Bob's
since 2016.
Bob's Rent-A-Center. All right.
Funny. Okay.
No, not funny. Not
I
funny at
hate
all,
when you
because
talk about
only an
business.
ignoramus would call up a program and try to blurt out their no good little nonprofit name and think that's going to benefit them.
So
in it.
you know who we are.
No, ma'am,
Okay,
I've
go to
never heard, ma'am, I have
everybody.
never
Sign up
heard
to
of
really
you
hear
there,
some
ma'am. I've
serious
never heard
black.
of you. But what it does tell us is some folks are off their meds. Look, I was talking about, if you want to know the black female businesses where like the nail salon / barbecue shop / lawn service, well, that was it. Look, it's triggered them. I mean, it certainly has triggered them. You got to say that for tonight. It certainly has triggered them. I don't blame them. They're big mad. It's triggered the hell out of them. Now, what does that tell you? Now, first of all, because get your laughs in and everything like that. That's perfectly fine. Go ahead and get your laughs in. But after you finish giggling, I want you to understand something. That's not funny. It really, really isn't. Some of the crap that they're talking about right there, some of that might be funny. But you know what isn't funny? That's not funny. What you see right there on your screen, that ain't no damn laughing matter. That's no laughing matter right there. Neither is that. That's not a joke either. And neither is that. Those are the objective realities. While you have some mentally and emotionally brain damaged and unbalanced individuals who are fresh off their Ritalin or fresh off of snorting drain cleaner, calling up on the phone and whatnot, you know what's not funny? That these are a bunch of old ass hoes, by the way. A bunch of old hoes. Did you say hoes? I said hoes. A bunch of old hoes who call up in the middle of the night, and the younger females are listening to them. And the point that these old hoes are trying to make, and that's the real thing I want you all to understand, the point the old hoes are trying to make is they are trying to make the point that you don't have to be worried. That's the point they're trying to make. The point that they're trying to make is everything's fine. Everything's okay. You see, that's the way you behave when everything is all right. When everything is all right, everything's a game. Everything's a joke. And that's the standpoint in which they're coming at it from. They want the young females to sit there and laugh and joke along too. You know what? Old hoes who laugh at things that ain't funny started off as young dumb hoes, laughing at things that weren't funny. But you know why you're sitting up here tonight all angry and mad and triggered? Because you realize you're 50 years old, you have no man, no savings, no prospects, and no future, and it ain't funny. It's not funny to hear people reading your mail and speaking about your life in real time. It's not funny. This isn't amusing. No, I didn't pay for those damn callers. This isn't funny and this isn't amusing. You're looking at a situation right now where in New York State, they basically are decriminalized prostitution, not men buying prostitutes, just the hoes out there prostituting. You know why? Because the government is admitting that many of you are just too dumb, too unskilled, and too old to be able to be retrained for anything. So we might as well make it legal for you to hustle them draws. And that's the standpoint at which they're coming at these things from. They're just coming at it from the standpoint that, you know what, there's just too many of you out here, way too many of you that we don't know what the hell to do with you, so just forget about it. There's gangs of you, throngs of you, whole hoods of you, and there's nothing we can do. So there will be a bunch of you out here, and there will not be enough men paying into the social security system to take care of you all. There will not be enough husbands to take care of you, and there will not be enough men paying into the system anymore. Even though men are making the majority of the income, there will not be enough men anymore because the men's incomes have been dropping dramatically because the men are no longer interested in being protectors and providers. They want to be eternal children to be taken over by these eternal thoughts. Okay, and then next thing you know, yeah, there you are right there. That's why they're just going ahead and saying, you know what, just screw it. We might as well just let them go out here and let them do what they're going to do. Just let them get by. Don't let this be our problem. Get them off the taxpayer rolls and see if they can make it on their own, however they make it. It would be better for us to deal with an ever-escalating STD epidemic than it will be to try to finance all of these uncoachable, stiff-necked, stubborn, backwards-ass females who are piling up and getting older by the day and completely unviable for a man in the private sector or a company in the private sector to take care of them. This is not me being mean. I'm speaking facts right now. I am speaking facts of life and reality right now. It's not funny. It's not funny to see a bunch of old bastard heifers sit up here and play around about this. Young women need to have a bunch of older women who can mentor them and let them know, hey, let me lead you in the right direction and put you on the right track so you don't have a harder life. These old hoes want to see the rest of you young chicks struggling. They want to see you struggling and destitute too. They should be ashamed of themselves, but shame is a concept that is beyond them. Maybe you can be ashamed for them. Call from area code 419. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
What's up, Jason? This is Joe calling from Toledo.
Joe from Toledo, what's on your mind?
Like I always say, Jason, you keep it 100 always. Thanks for bringing those numbers down. Like you say, we don't like math, but I was good at math, but most of us don't like math, but you broke those numbers down perfect. The saddest part about the whole ordeal is just 2021. And today, exactly where you broke it down, it is actually these women today, they literally thinking that they can get this high value man with a low income. Now, I agree with you with the two combined income, it will work. And I like the way you broke it down, especially with the 401k. I've never even thought of getting the 401k ever in my life. But thank you for breaking everything down, bro. And trust and believe, when you share your knowledge to us, it's not bashing. You are educating us. You are our think tank. They have their think tank. And thank you. D1, keep it real.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, Joe from Toledo. Let me get caller from area code 917. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Caller from area code 917. You're on live.
Yes, hi. My name is Michelle. I'm from Virginia. I have a question.
Michelle calling from Virginia. Where at in Virginia?
Fairfax.
Michelle from Fairfax, Virginia. Sounds interesting. And what's on your mind, Michelle?
You said that 2 incomes is better than 1. So as a single person, if I'm making $150,000 a year, how is my income worse than a couple who's making $50,000 and then maybe $40,000 a year?
Because you're only going to be able to do that as long as you can work.
So if I can work up to the age of 65,
okay, if.
And who's to say that the couple will make it to the age of 65?
Okay, ma'am, black women have more chronic conditions than anybody else in this country. Did you know that? Black women have the highest rates of all the morbidities of anybody in this country. Did you know that? Were you aware, Michelle, were you aware of that? Michelle from Fairfax. Black women, ma'am, black women, ma'am, black women in America, black women, ma'am. Michelle, so what you're saying is you did not know that. Michelle, what you're saying is that you did not know that black women lead in all the morbidities. You did not know that is what you're saying.
No, I know that.
Okay, Michelle, I'm going to try this one. Michelle, I'm going to try this one more time. First of all, do not talk over the host, ma'am. I'm not here to argue that with you, Michelle. Do not talk over the host, ma'am. If you do that again, your ass is out of here. Simple as that.
You were talking over me.
Michelle, I'm hosting my program. You were asked a yes or no question. I didn't ask you to go into an explanation because you're not smart enough for that. Did you know what I just told you was true? And you said you don't. Obviously, you didn't know that was true because you're questioning it. This isn't up for debate, ma'am. So what you're saying is you didn't know that very basic information.
Right now on the phone. Are you telling me that black women have more chronic issues than black men in America?
Black women lead in all of the chronic issues, ma'am. You did not know that? You didn't know that? Okay, ma'am, no, they do not. Ma'am, first of all, no, they did not. Second of all, how does that help you?
Excuse me?
First of all, you're wrong, so I'm not going to let you sit up here and spew out stupidity. That's completely wrong. Google is your friend, although if you could spell Google, you'd probably use it, but since you can't. But second of all, even if that were true, which it's not, that deflection doesn't help you. Do you realize how much of a loser you look like by the first thing you did was deflection? That has nothing to do with you.
Deflect.
Yes, you did. You said, well, black men's got issues too. That's called deflection. I know that's a big word for you.
I'm stating the fact.
Ma'am, the fact is that as a black woman, ma'am.
Black men also have a lot of chronic issues too.
Black men have a lot of chronic issues. That has nothing to do with anything, Michelle. That has nothing to do with anything.
Are you going to let me speak
Michelle,
or are you going to speak over me?
Michelle, how much do you weigh?
You know what?
How much do you weigh, Michelle?
Jason Black.
Michelle, how much do you weigh?
How much do I weigh?
Yes, ma'am.
What does that matter?
Because, ma'am, because you don't lead in any of the morbidities, and you don't have because you think you're going to live till 65. Because you think you're going to live out your entire working life. You think you're going to live out your whole working life. How much do you weigh?
What does it have to do? What does
Because
it
you
matter?
started off with the assumption of that she's gotten real quiet now. You started off with the
But
assumption that you would live your entire working life. How much do you weigh? Michelle, the biggest indicator whether or not you will live to retirement is how much you weigh. So how much do you weigh, Michelle?
No, first of all, you're not even promised tomorrow.
Okay, Michelle.
How you know you're gonna live to
Michelle,
65?
you have made my point for me. Now, go find a treadmill and a smoothie machine, and you and Lizzo see if y'all can work that out. By the way, she comes from the bummy part of Fairfax. But yeah, there you go. Well, if I make 150, baby, you don't make 15,000. Knock it off. Well, if I work for 30 years, how much do you weigh? Well, we got to go ahead and talk about that right there, because that'll tell us whether you'll live long enough to make that. But don't worry, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be all right. No, you're not. Coming around the corner looking like Gilbert Grape. No, it's not going to work. But they're real triggered. You notice they're upset and angry about that now. What they're not saying is anything is wrong. They are triggered as hell, though. All right. Caller from area code 630. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, Jason. This is Nick from Chicago by way of Houston.
Nick from Chicago. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to call in. I haven't called in for a while. Yeah, you are directly on point. You stated the facts here. There are going to be people that argue with it. I tell my family members, I tell other women that I interact with, men too, because we got to step our game up in a large way. But there's I don't know what it is, but people just don't want to, I guess, improve themselves. They'd rather blame somebody else instead of improving themselves. And the whole of society, like you just said, when you showed that Amazon commercial, that just took me off guard, because a multi-trillion-dollar business is promoting this type of behavior that's not really working. And so my only thing is the end goal just to keep having a whole bunch of wage slaves?
Yes, and it's very interesting that Amazon, of all places, would be promoting something like that. But then again, you have to remember that Amazon's business model is highly dependent on disposable workers. I was posting there that, Amazon, for those of you who are not aware, Amazon actually has said it. They have actually said that they don't want people there for 30 years. That ideally, as far as Amazon is concerned, their ideal is that you would work for them for 2 or 3 years most before, quote unquote, moving on. I posted that article there on my Facebook for folks. But this article that was done there, that's what Amazon said, not me. And by the way, then some folks chimed in and said they work for Walmart, and Walmart pretty much says the same thing, that their ideal employee is somebody who works for them for 2 or 3 years before moving on. That ideally, that's what they would want. So they're not interested in your best and brightest. They are interested in a bunch of disposable bodies. They really, really are. And they're putting their money behind it. They're putting their damn money behind this. They're putting their money behind nonsense, but it's not nonsense. This is the game plan. Yeah, a lot of folks are shocked to hear that, by the way. For those of you who have Amazon fulfillment centers, particularly out there in California, California is a particularly egregious one for Amazon. Everybody talked about Alabama and whatnot, and Alabama's bad too. But as far as black women are concerned, the fulfillment centers and working in fulfillment centers in Amazon in California is particularly egregious. And they particularly target black females. Take a look at the ones who did the most complaining about having to relieve themselves in bottles. Yeah, a lot of these were the females. So they will sit there and they will play along with this garbage all you want to. But brother, this is the plan. This is the game plan. And yeah, they're making a vested interest in that. I mean, and we've seen this before. Hell, it's like McDonald's serving unhealthy food and whatnot. It feeds into the system. They sure as hell. That's it. That's exactly what they would want. They don't want a bunch of people who are trying to elevate. They need a consistent, steady supply of low-wage individuals. This is not accidental.
So,
thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get a call from area code 281. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Prince out of Richmond, Texas.
Pick up your phone, Prince.
I'm sorry, Jason. I walked away for a second. I apologize.
That's what you get for walking away. You should know better. What's on your mind?
Jason, I think the older women, they chose their lot in life, a lot of them, not all. But they trying to sabotage the younger women. But you having the credibility as a black man, see, the younger women are listening. See, they don't want them listening to you. That's why they're triggered. They want this to be business as usual. Just continue on. Just continue on with things that don't help our community, doesn't help us as black people, and showing them that they're living their best life, and well, they're miserable. They're broke down. They complain about all the gastrointestinal problems and other issues that they have. They don't have. How is that something that you want for your daughter?
Because there are no men.
Go ahead.
I mean, the real issue is, brother, and by the way, the black women listening to me, they will corroborate everything I'm saying. The black females listening to me, they know this is their mama I'm talking about. They know this is their grandmother. This isn't me talking. They grew up with it. They grew up with a mother who they know didn't really want anything good for them. They just want you to get out here and whatnot. And I know, folks, my copycat's trying to steal this too, by the way. But they just want you to be in the same town with them so you don't go anywhere, because she squandered her youth. She did not get a husband. So if she doesn't cripple the children and force them to stay in the same city with her, she is on her elderly own. So just like Amazon doesn't want black women to do any better, their own mothers don't want them to do better.
And I believe there's a side issue. I think that I'm pretty sure you know this, that the women think that you're actually lowering the dating pool. By the older women think that a lot of men are going to go toward the younger women, and they feel like that you're creating more competition for them. Because having a job or business, man looking for cooperation. He's looking for a woman that's going to build into what he's trying to do. And if she's sitting there talking about what she got and what she has, that's no time for that. But that's all I have to say tonight, Jason. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 503. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Fred calling out of the lung of the beast, Portland, Oregon.
Fred out of Portland, what's on your mind?
This is what I'm thinking right now. So white supremacy is pretty much, they're a one-trick pony, and all they got is a Trojan horse. They come with the friendship, saying good words, and then they point you to where you think the enemy is at, and they pull a knife from behind their back and stab you in your back. That's how I get down. Portland, Oregon, I know it. B1.
Okay, thank you very much for giving us a call tonight, folks. Please make sure you stay on topic here. Let me get caller from area code 616. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, my name is Jules. I'm from Idlewild, Michigan. By the way, Anna, Texas. I was just calling. I wasn't going to call in, but you just touched on a couple good topics.
Okay, did you say that you were out of Ann Arbor, Michigan? Was that what you were trying to say?
No, Idlewild.
Okay, Idlewild, Michigan.
You
okay.
have to hear about Idlewild, Michigan.
No. I wasn't making out what you were saying. I wasn't making out what you were saying. Your phone's kind of a little muffled, but go ahead.
I know. I'm so sorry. I was trying to make sure I wasn't on speaker so you wouldn't hang up.
That's fine. What's on your mind?
Okay, so I feel like you're right with the 401k. I feel like a lot of black women don't know anything about it because their parents don't push that. I would say my mom pushed it due to she was a working mom. You know, she got with someone, a man, who told her about it. You know, like, hey, you don't have to take out, you don't have to go to the car lot and get a car note. You can take out your 401 and pay them back, you know? And so, like, I don't know, I just feel like that's a good thing that us women should do, you know, even if we did have a black man on our side, but I just feel like they do help, you know?
Well, let me find out here. How old are you?
I'm 34.
Okay, you're 34 years old. Let me ask you a basic question here. Do you feel that as a black, I'm assuming you're a black woman yourself. Do you feel like black women today want to be instructed?
I feel like they do, but it's like you said in the media, it's a portraying of where they don't have to. Like my son said the other day, like it's easier for a girl to go viral on TikTok because she just got to twerk. And you know, like I told him, yeah, you're right, and it's wrong. You know, like it's wrong that it's even you black younger kids looking at this and feeling like it's okay.
Okay,
and, you
well,
know,
let me ask you something here though, because I said, do you feel that black women today want to be instructed? Let me ask you a question here. The last 3 black females that you have encountered, I'm talking about encountered anywhere, at the checkout line at Walmart, at the post office, the last 3 random black females that you have encountered, did they strike you as females that if you corrected them on anything, they would be open and fully receptive to being corrected and instructed?
I will say yes. I just went to Bible study. My pastor wife, that's exactly what we're talking about. You know, being willing to.
Okay, let me try. Okay, so you are able to correct the pastor's wife?
I mean, not correct, but
I meant what I said. No. I meant what I said. That if you needed to correct the pastor's wife, when's the last time you heard a black female tell that you corrected a black female and she said the words to you in response, "Oh, I'm wrong"?
We're reading Acts right now. So
okay, your phone's breaking up. Your phone's breaking up on you there. But let me try again. When was the last time that you spoke to a black?
We're reading Acts right now. So we're in that part where it is, you know, we're showing that you have to,
ma'am. Okay,
you know,
ma'am. You're either not getting it or you're not listening or something here. You keep telling me that you're reading in the Bible. I'm asking you, who has said this to you? And so far, you ain't said anybody. You have not corrected the pastor's wife. She's probably corrected you. But if you did, would she tell you that she was wrong?
Yes, she would tell me.
Okay, you don't sound the least bit sure about that. Not at all.
The people that I'm surrounding myself.
Okay, her Obama phone is digitizing on her there. But ma'am, okay, ma'am, that's literally.
But it has to be the right book.
Okay, so it needs to be the right person.
Ask me until corrects me. I have to say, yes, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm willing to understand myself. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, well, you're willing to understand yourself. Here's the problem. You are not in. Do you think that you are indicative or typical of the average black female in that regard? Silence. There you go. Silence. There you go. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to project. Okay, ma'am, you're trying to project is what you're doing. You're projecting and trying to say, okay, well, let me give the best spin on this, but that is not reality. Let me ask you 2 more things here, and let's keep this brief.
Good.
By the way, how long have you been married?
3 years.
Okay. You've been married for 3 years because you mentioned your son. You didn't mention anything about a husband. So are you sure that you're legally married or you're kind of, Instagram married?
I am. Yes, I am.
Okay.
So we've been together 15 and
You've been
married 3.
together. Y'all been together for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How old were you all when you got? How old were you when you met him?
I was young.
You don't know how old you were when you met him?
I could not ask him, but like, where is we going with this?
Okay, ma'am, let me try again. How old were you when you met him?
Where is we going with this?
Right, because you don't sound like you're being honest at all, which would explain exactly you are typical of a lot of black females, that when you don't have reality and facts on your side, you'll just make things up. Ma'am, you just said we've been married for 3 years. We met 15 years ago. Is it because you can't do the math of 15? I caught you on the spot and you can't do the math of 15. So you just made up a number and didn't think I was actually going to ask? This is very simple, ma'am. How old were you when you met him? It's real easy. How old were you?
I just want to know where we're going with this.
Okay, ma'am. That has nothing to do with saying the number. How old were you when you met him?
Where is we going?
Right. Okay. So like I say, basically when they don't, ma'am, you're done. Ma'am, you're done. Just stop it now and quit while you're behind. Just stop. You've already embarrassed yourself. You've embarrassed yourself enough. It is time to stop.
I
just quit.
Myself.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to know.
And now I'm not going to have you clogging up my very valuable ways here. But by the way, folks, yeah. It doesn't take there's a reason they call me the authority. Yeah, it doesn't take very long. It doesn't take very long at all, because if you're going to sit up here and tell me, well, I think most females is agreeable to being corrected. Okay. And are you think you're typical? Why, show! All right. Because I couldn't help but notice you mentioned a son, but not a husband. Because you strike me as being a disciplinary problem. So I don't believe for 1 second that you have a husband. But if you do, when did you all meet? Well, what that got to do with anything? She's sitting over there trying to do the math on her fingertip. This is what you get for skipping 3rd grade math, ma'am. This is what you get for that. So they might have let you drop out of school at 15, but you probably should have stuck around long enough to be able to do the math on that. She's 34 years old and cannot tell you when she met this man. She said 15 years ago. That's why I asked her how old she was. Then you can go ahead and tell me when you all met, because you would have been in high school. In her case, probably repeating her last year 2 or 3 times. But ladies, you know what we are getting is a textbook example of exactly what you don't want to be. That's what we're getting. We're getting a textbook example of exactly what you don't want to be. I hope some of the ladies are listening here tonight. The young ladies listening, I hope you're tuning in tonight. Let me get called from area code 404. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Will from Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Okay, if you're on speaker, Will, take it off.
I'm sorry, I'm on Bluetooth. I'm driving. I'm in a truck right now.
He might be better off putting on speaker or something there instead. I'm barely able to make out what you're saying, Will. If you have earpieces on or something, I don't want you to hit anybody out there, but try taking it off. But I'm not making out what you're saying.
Oh, you can't hear me. I'm sorry. I was in this car.
Okay. Let me go ahead and let him go here, but try calling us back here later, brother. Let me get caller from area code 681. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from? Caller from 681 has been abducted. Caller from area code 317. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from? Okay. Some of the folks are doing their mollies before they're calling in. Folks, let's do better than that. Let me get caller from area code 786. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from? All right. Some of them were awake. If I feel like folks are trolling, then I'm going to have to see if we can get you some medical assistance. Now, you know how that works. Might be necessary to call and get to see if we can get somebody to call you for medical assistance. We'll see if we can just let somebody in your area know. So if folks think that's going to be a good idea. Just be aware, Jason plays super rough. So you might want to stop that. Then again, it's up to you. We can have some fun, or we can have some big fun. Let me try a caller from area code 470. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Erica from Atlanta, Georgia.
Erica from Atlanta. What's on your mind?
I just called in to tell you you're right. There's nothing that we can say. Just, you're exactly right. The numbers are scary. They are real. I thank you for taking the blinders off from all the quote-unquote influencers and bloggers out here lying to them and saying, you could start this business, you could start this, make $300,000. I thank you for telling people the truth, because those numbers are real.
Well, it would be different if you had 500 or 600 years to live. That'd be different. But you've only got a practical working life of about 20 years, and you only have a prime mating options of about the first, about a 10-year window. And for people to sit up here and blow smoke up your ears or anywhere else, that's a real problem. And I don't like that. And I certainly don't like billion-dollar corporations. Everybody from Verizon to Amazon is feeding into this. And they're way bigger than anything I got. They're able to do much more programming of the popular consciousness than I can. Think about how many people they can screw up in the meantime. And so if your mom just don't give a damn and your daddy ain't on it, then, the majority of them are going to be messed up in that regard. And that's why I'm really just trying to talk to the younger females and whatnot. For the older ones, I just got to assume it's like, okay, that's probably a done deal. Maybe for the younger ones, we'll see how it goes. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me try a caller from area code 681. Why are you playing on my phone?
No, my bad about that. I wasn't available, so I just hung up, but I'm back on. To agree with your point, I was just on this is Thaddeus from Beckley, West Virginia. Thad. So I was just on a meeting with 3 black women as well. And, it was very strange when we were trying to organize an event that was coming together that nobody would also say, I'm wrong, like you were just exampling. And also the mentorship of the youth involvement, because I'm 24 and so they were older. And with me trying to say, well, this is the way that we should go, and I believe that there was a mistake made, it was just silence. And, coming from a place like West Virginia, a lot of it is maybe similar to down south with a lot of the obesity issues. And there is a lot of eating young, because a lot of the females around here, the only thing that they like to do is nursing. So for a lot of the black males around here as well, too, that don't have the influence sometimes from the fatherhood standpoint, they don't have a commanding or ability to have a youth standpoint or look at these statistics. And so I guess there's a question for me as well with being young. How is a way to also empower myself and then look to assist and give them an avenue of how to organize better, about kind of like leading the standard of being a better leader in that instance.
Okay, well, first of all, you can't lead what you don't know. So the first thing is, don't worry about the rest of the world. First and foremost, worry about yourself. Be concerned about perfecting yourself. Fix your issues. Get yourself together. Double your income every 3 years. Make sure you have a skill. You can't just be chasing a job. You have to actually have a skill, and it needs to be something that people actually need. So no psychology, liberal arts, social sciences, nonsense. You go into STEM, and then you make sure that you keep investing in yourself. Make sure your credit score is together. So not only are you making money, you need to be good at managing it. And that's really it right there. Once you've mastered that for yourself and perfected it for yourself, and it's not rocket science, now that you have perfected it in yourself and solidified it in yourself, now you can go off with other people. Now you can contribute to other people. Now you can teach them from your experiences, from your actions, from your mistakes. You can have the opportunity to do that. So that's the way that will work. But don't first and foremost think about other people. Think about you first. And once you have yourself together, then you'll be in a position to be able to do that with other people. And if you're 24 years old, you're exactly where you need to be. So right now, the only question I would ask you is, what are you doing for a living right now?
Right now, I'm an organizer for a political action committee, Working Families Party.
So, in
so a lot of the things.
in other words, we're not doing anything right now. So we need to actually get a skill set that we can use, and then we will actually have something. Because here's the problem: you cannot become an employer doing what you're doing. Being a political organizer worked out for Barack Obama. I don't know how many other people it's going to be able to work out for in that regard. So like I say, an actual skill set is what is missing there. It's very good to be able to talk to people.
Do you think I should go to law school or just go back to school for STEM?
I would go to school for STEM. I can show you any number of attorneys who are being an attorney right now is a lot like chicks going into psychology. There was a great article that was done years ago by the Wall Street Journal that was talking about that. It was the Wall Street Journal or Forbes, I want to say, was talking about that, and about how so many of that being a lawyer in America today, the idea that you can just put out a shingle somewhere and be okay. The places you can do that are going to be few and far between now, because most of the law work now is taken care of by major law corporations. You got outfits that, span whole states and whatnot. So these are billion-dollar operations like the Cochran firm and, Morgan and Morgan and, Morris Bart. We can go down the list. And so it's not really an area where you can come out of law school anymore and just do your thing and that's it. It's kind of like being in the medical field. Being a single practice doctor is a lot more limited now. Most of them are part of some hospital corporation, and that's what's happened. So it's really one of those things where, if you're going to do that, get into something that you can control. The law field is so saturated at this point, that's not the way to go. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 980. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, I'm Carolyn. I'm calling from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Carolyn from Charlotte, what's on your mind?
You're absolutely right about Black women, about economics, and about we don't know a darn thing about finance. And I have been very lucky. I have been around men who have been producers, and I've learned about finance. And it's been probably a 30-year journey. And I try to help other women about finance, and most of them do not want to learn. Even my own family members. I give them books. The men in my family, the young men, they seem to want to learn, but a lot of the women don't.
Why do you think that is?
And what, sir?
Why do you think that is?
They want to listen to television and listen to the media, and they just want to believe. They just want to believe and make believe. The women, I feel like the maturity level has been lowered. They're 30-year-olds and they act like they're teenagers. I see it at work. They don't want to face reality.
I think
that's all I think.
Well, let me find out here, Carolyn. I think that's very insightful here. Let me ask you, how old are you?
I'm 54.
Okay. So, you've witnessed it like I have, or you witnessed it a little bit longer than I have here. I think what happened here is really the welfare state, the single mother era, the baby boomer thought era, really did a number on them, where overnight you had a bunch of females who were raised in two-parent homes, and then overnight those females turned their backs on the very successful two-parent model and said, forget it, it's all about sexual adventurism now. And they bought into it because the society wanted them out here in the workforce, because the more women working, the more profits they make. Women rack up more debt. Women do more superfluous spending. Women do more impulse spending, so much so to the point that's most of your financial institutions study women's spending patterns. Now, what they will tell you is that historically, the women control the finances in the home. Should we say the man puts her in charge of distributing finances? Because when they use those terms, they're talking about buying clothes for the kids and this, that, and the other. It's the man who makes the money and the woman who distributes it. Well, you have a situation where the females still want to be in charge of distributing the money. They just don't want to be in charge of making it. But they put themselves into a position where they have to make the money. And what's happening is their appetite for spending is far larger than their ability to supply said spending. That's the problem. And now they're of an age where they're watching a bunch of people faking their way. And if you all want to know what the problem is with the faking and flex culture and all this garbage and phonies on the internet, if you want to know what's wrong with it, it's because it deceives people into believing that what they're seeing is practical and real, and it's not. And so that's why you're saying, okay, they're not operating in a rational manner. Well, no, they're not, but they haven't figured it out yet. Because what they see on Instagram, they will sit here and tell you that they don't believe what they see on Instagram and then immediately start responding to it. Now, there's the crazy part. They'll tell you they don't believe it. Oh, I know Kim Kardashian's pictures are Photoshopped. Now, let me go buy a waist trainer. Wait a minute. If Kim didn't get her waist with a waist trainer, that's photoshopping. If that waist isn't real, what makes you think buying a waist trainer is going to work? You just told me that you know that picture is fake. You just told me that. And yet you're off buying a waist trainer. So what I'm saying is we're having a situation where perception and feeling are clashing directly with reality and reason. And that's what you're experiencing here now. On top of that, they're meeting the mathematical reality. It doesn't matter how you feel about men. This is a mathematical game. This isn't an opinion. It's mathematics. To the idiot caller who called in here before, and Carolyn, you're quite happy. You're a little bit older than her, not much, but a little bit older than her. So you are more than welcome to jump in and correct me or say that I'm wrong at any time you want to here. To the idiot caller who called in before, who was claiming that, well, what if I make $150,000 a year? First of all, you will literally be making 5 times the median black female income. 5 times that amount. And in your 30s, this long story short, it ain't happening. But furthermore, by the time that even if you could achieve that, which you won't, but even if you could, by the time you achieve that, you're going to be older. Life is going to be different. You might be under a home, under a car. It's not going to be an average home. You're not going to be having much in savings because women tend to stretch themselves out. If you're chasing a career, you're going to go where the company tells you to be, not where you choose to be. It will not work that way. With all of those pressure, and God help you if you have children, now you think you're going to be making 1% income or top 7% income and then taking care of 3 kids by yourself? No, not going to occur. This is going to be a car wreck. It will not happen. It won't. You're going to need a partner. Whether you make more than him or not, you're going to need a competent partner. Otherwise, this will not work. Now, if I really throw you a loop and throw in a medical condition of any type in there, Katie barred the door. Things just got difficult. Things just got messed up. You need him for supplement. Somebody has to be having insurance for you and the kids. If you can't work, you need a backup plan. Who's the backup plan? Because if it's just you, there are plenty of, if you want to know why women are the fastest, or have always been disproportionately representing in homelessness, women and children, is because when the woman hits any type of financial snag, it's game over. She's by herself. See, that's the problem. You don't have a backup plan. So you can come up with this fantasy scenario. Well, Jason, what if, don't, let me talk now, Jason. Let me talk now, Jason. Let me talk. Okay, now what if I start making $150,000 at the age of 34? What do you do for a living? I'm a daycare worker. $150,000 as a daycare worker. I work a lot of hours though, Jason. Let me talk. Now, if I'm making $150,000 a year, And what if I'm doing that there? What do you say then, Mr. Jason Black? I say the numbers don't work. The math still doesn't work. I mean, there's a possibility it could work for you, but the truth of the matter is the odds are outrageously against you. Literally nothing in your life could go wrong. Nothing. It's perfectly fine if you lead a life where literally nothing goes wrong. But if it does, then what? Because that's what it does. No disrespect to anyone. They just buried Javita Moore. For those of you who live in Atlanta, y'all know that she was a newscaster out there, gorgeous woman. But they just buried her. Brain cancer. Brain cancer. She leaves behind the kids. I didn't hear anything about the husband. And I'm not trying to stomp on anybody about that. But what I am saying is she didn't see that coming either. All she knew was that she was having some issues. She was like, I'm walking around in the fog. I'm having balancing issues. And then they told her, oh, you have two masses in your brain. And I'm not even saying that you will experience something like that. What I'm saying is that this is the real damn world. This is what happens. You're going along out here, and 2/3 of black women are overweight or obese. Let me say that again. 2/3 of black women, going on 70%, are overweight or obese. Some of the numbers have it as high as 80%. Overweight or obese. Now, that means that you are immediately, talk to any doctor in this country. When a black woman comes through the door, he's ready. High blood pressure, cholesterol, thyroid, every damn thing else. He's ready. Everything except the exercise plan. Talk to the female nurses, nurse practitioners. They can tell you when the black women come through the door, here we go. God help you when you start talking to the ones who are over the age of 50, the ones who make it over the age of 50. By that point, the real problems have come in. Now we're kicking off the heart disease, the diabetes, the circulation issues, liver problems, of which black women are leading the way. And you want to fantasize that that's not the real world. No, you want your fantasy to take the place of the real world. Welcome to the real world. It's pretty damn rough over here. It's pretty damn rough over here. Then I dump children on top of you too? All that and children. You think a 6-figure income is going to compensate for that? Only spoken by an idiot who's never made a 6-figure income. You find out real quickly how far that doesn't go. You know when you're talking to somebody who's never really had any money before because they think $100,000 is a lot of money. They think $100,000 is rich. They'll be sitting their ass living in the middle of Atlanta, living in the middle of Jacksonville, living in the middle of DC, living in the middle of Chicago, living in the middle of Detroit, living in the middle of New York, and they'll literally sit here on this phone and tell you that 6 figures is a lot of money. That's how you know they've never had 6 figures before. If you live in Atlanta, and I ain't even talking about Buckhead. If you live in Atlanta, you know full damn well Atlanta ain't nothing like it used to be 10 years ago, much less 20 years ago. Whole different damn ball game. Whole different ball game. Dallas, my old stomping grounds. Whole different ball game. No, we're not even going to get into places like Miami and Los Angeles. Miami, which has become the Los Angeles of the East Coast. We're not even going to get into that. I'm not even going to take you that far. I'm just going to take you to places like Atlanta, Dallas, Houston. You know, your NFL name cities. Yeah, and that includes Charlotte. By the way, Charlotte, Charlotte, North Carolina. That's like anybody who's been there, they got more than a speedway. They got that's a major hub for banking. If you've never been through Charlotte, for anybody who's never been there, that's not a small thing there either. So even places that you just think, okay, well, they don't sound like very much. I did the film on gentrification, talking about Nashville, Tennessee, Davidson County, which by this point right here has probably added 500,000 people since I made that film. You're sitting there in Nashville, and $100,000 a year will be just enough to keep your head above water. 7 years ago, you was balling. Today, you are working class. You don't want to know what it's going to be like in 10 years, and all those New Yorkers who used to be going down all the way down to Florida, you can't afford to get in there anymore. Now they're filling up. It's filling up like a glass from the bottom. Florida's the bottom of the glass, and it's filling up into Georgia. Now going up into the Carolinas. Next stop, Kentucky, Tennessee. Oh hell. Oh hell. If I'm wrong, let me know, Carolyn.
No, you're absolutely right. It's I have I've worked in the medical field for over a number of years, and I took a year and a half off, and it's you're right. I mean, this area is really being gentrified, and it's hard to find rental properties and just hard to find other properties. I had friends who sold their house and they couldn't even find a house to replace their house. And also a lot of the older ladies I know in my family, I know I have one, she's 70 and she's still working. And she's single, she doesn't have any children. And it's sad. It's truly sad. And
well, now let
and
me
then
find out
the
here.
younger ladies, they don't want to listen.
Well, let me find out here. You say you took a year and a half off. Are you married?
No, I've divorced 20 years ago.
Well, what did you take that year and a half off in the last 5-10 years?
Yes, I took it off last year.
Okay.
In 2020 when COVID hit.
Okay, so, well, you had a little bit of a reprieve there in that regard, so at least you knew what you were coming back to. But that was not easy.
I'm thinking about coming back.
Yeah, there's my point right there. That would be a lot easier with a husband now, wouldn't it?
Yes. If I had a husband, I wouldn't go back.
Let me find out here. You're only in your 50s now. What happened to your husband?
Well, I got married right after. I got married while I was in college, and we ended up divorcing 11 years later at the age of 34. And we why? I believe that I truly believe that he did not want to be the best he could be. And his dad told me to divorce him. His dad said, "You deserve better, divorce him."
What was he doing for a living?
Well, he went to college. He got a 4-year degree, and then he didn't. Then he wanted to do paralegal.
Well, he got a 4-year degree. Let me find out. He got a 4-year degree in what, though?
It was in English.
Okay, he got a bachelor's degree to be a teacher.
Right. And then he's like, "Okay, I want to be an attorney." And I was like, "Okay, sweetheart." And he's like, "Well, I want to do paralegal." And I'm like, "Well, you can go to a technical school to do paralegal." But he was the male, and I followed him. But yet he all during that time, while he was going to school for his bachelor's, I worked. I was the main bread renter, and our roles reversed, and it changed our whole relationship. It just changed everything.
Well, let me find out here. When you met him, did he have any children?
No.
Did you two have children?
No, when I met him, when I was like...
Well, did you have children with him?
Excuse me? No, we didn't have any children. We wanted children. We talked about children. His mother and dad and my mom, we had already talked about it. His mom's like, "Well, I'd have the kids for the summer." And I said, "Well, my mom has to have 2 weeks also." And me and his mom, dad had talked about it. The whole family had talked about it, but
I gotta
felt
say,
like his dad.
I know this is water under the bridge at this point, but I hope for the young people listening here. In the chat room, they beat me to it. Keep your in-laws out of your business. If I could give you all one bit of advice here, keep your in-laws out of your business, because I could see it different if they were helping. Dad ain't even trying. That's his damn son, and he's not trying to help it here. I mean, because here's the problem. How old were you all when you got divorced from him?
I was okay. He was 33. I was 34, and his.
Now, think about that for a few moments. Now, where were you all living at the time?
Well, we were living in Chapel Hill, and then we moved to Atlanta.
Okay,
for him to go to school.
Right. Well, when you got divorced, where were you living?
We were living in Atlanta.
Okay, so basically you got caught up in the 20 years ago. So back in 2001, right after 9/11. So
true.
You got caught up in the idea we in hot Atlanta and this, that, and the other, and you were in your 30s, and you got caught up in this idea. Well, I'm in Atlanta, and not realizing it wasn't easy to get a man in Atlanta back then. And you didn't get yours in Atlanta. You got yours in the Carolinas and came to Atlanta. She came to Atlanta to lose her man. And I don't say that to be negative here. I mean, it's, like I say, it's a done deal. But I want you all to understand something. Take a look at the reality. She had a husband when she came. She got caught up in the idea of Atlanta. Well, I can do it on my own. And she came and lost her husband in Atlanta. Think about that for just a few moments. And here's the kicker. If anybody thinks that that was the right decision to make, and like I say, I'm sure she's made peace with her decisions at this point here. Just because a person makes peace with something doesn't mean it was a good thing. But question, did you get after you got rid of him, who did you get to replace him?
I made a mistake. I played the field too long.
There you go.
That's what happened to me.
There you go.
There were a couple of replacements, but I played the field too long.
Okay, now explain exactly what you mean now, because you could mean that in one of two ways. So when you say I played the field too long, what do you mean?
What I mean, I went from high school to college, and I was in college for like 2 years. Then I met him, and then I got married, and then 14 years later, I was an adult, and I didn't have many relationships, and it was new to me, and I ended up dating, and I just played the field too long. I thought, well, gosh, I'll meet someone, and then I said I'll meet someone within, maybe 3 or 4 years, and then after I met a couple of young men, and I decided to come back to North Carolina because my mom was sick. And
okay, you're talking about this was after you got divorced?
After I got divorced. But
right.
My mom, she encouraged me to go to Atlanta with my husband.
Right, but your mom encouraged you to go to Atlanta. You went to Atlanta and then decided, Atlanta's a great place to get divorced. She leaves her husband, and then is unable.
No, I leave after the divorce. After the divorce, I go back to school.
Who, ma'am?
I leave after.
Okay, Carolyn, who filed the divorce?
I did.
Okay, as I said, she goes to Atlanta and she leaves her husband. And after she leaves her husband, she decides, well, I'm 34, young, single, ready to mingle, and I will not disparage a lady's honor, but I will say when she says 3 or 4 gentlemen, I'm pretty sure that they weren't just hanging out, eating milk and cookies and playing Scrabble and Connect 4. But in any case, so she's entertaining male company for years after it. She didn't make a priority of getting another husband quick, fast, and in a hurry. She says, hey, I'm working myself. I'm okay. There is no rush. I'll do this when I want to. Let's just be totally candid. That was the rationale going on. There's no hurry. There's no rush. I just got out of a marriage. Why do I got to jump into another one? I'm young. I'm economically viable. I can tread water. I'm treading water on my own. There's no rush for me to go off and do anything. And she didn't. And what I'm saying is it was bad enough to go there and leave your husband. That was bad enough. But if the game plan was I'm leaving him for the dude who works downtown at Merrill Lynch, then I would see it differently. But she left her husband not for a something, not for a something better, and not even for a something else. She just left her husband to leave him. And now 20 years later, she's been hauling this on her own. And what I'm saying is, regardless of how you might feel about that situation here, and I don't wish any ill on you, I hope things have gone as well as they can. But the bottom line is, wouldn't this have been a whole lot easier if you had had a husband, even if he was not overachieving? Wouldn't this have been easier if you had had a partner with you to offer some help as opposed to carrying this whole load on your own?
Yeah, I agree. It would have been a lot easier. It would have been a lot easier. And when I was married, it was easier. But the first 3 years of the marriage, it was much easier. But then the first 4 years of the marriage, it was easier. But then the last 7 wasn't.
Okay. With the retrospect that you have on it, like I say, I mean, we don't have a perfect situation, but you definitely, yeah, there's the real thing about us getting to a point that we understand, okay, we just need to just handle where we are. Because here's the reality. The reality is, okay, he may have been deficient. However, if he was not the best you could do, why is it we didn't get somebody else? And I don't mean that as a pejorative or a negative or a criticism, a stark criticism. What I am saying, though, is that doing this by ourselves, you're getting older, have you had any children?
No, I haven't had any children. Also, during that time when I was married, I had fibroids, and I had surgery, and the doctor said, you within a couple of years you need to have kids. And so that was before we moved to Atlanta. And so the plan was for us to have a family. And the more I talked about family, he said that he felt like his dad gave up too much for their marriage. And I was like, what do you mean? I said, you said you have a great dad. He said, yeah, my dad is the best. And he said, my dad's the best and everything. And he admired his dad, but yet he was also afraid of his dad. And he had a lot of wonderful men in his life, but yet he kept changing jobs. He kept saying that he's going to do this and do that. He was more
and I do understand that. And here's the thing I want women to understand, though. And I do understand that. But this man wasn't trying to leave you either. And the real thing is, like I say, if you do make a decision, he was good enough that you married him. So whatever his positives were he brought to the table, those positives were high enough that they overcame his negatives, because those negatives didn't just establish themselves one day. Those negatives were already there. So whatever he was doing at the beginning was valuable enough to overcome any objections you had to his negatives. And what I'm saying is that at a certain point, we have to accept when we've bought into the game that we're all in, and we got to make the best of where we're at. Because the worst option would be just being out here, you're in your 50s or 60s and you're by yourself. Because at this point now, you don't have the ability to have children, which means, you're not going to be able to start a family with a man, which means that the only thing you'll have to offer the man is yourself. Well, that's okay when you're 22 and he has the prospects of going forward. But at 50, if the only thing he's going to get is just you by yourself, you got to be an awesome chick. And Nicole Murphy, Janet Jackson, Jennifer Lopez, they got all y'all 50-something-year-olds beat in awesomeness, and none of them can seal the deal either. It's not just you all. Once you reach a certain point,
that is true.
Once you reach a certain point, you don't have any more leverage. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And like in my 40s, the phones were ringing, but once I hit that 45 or whatever, and even though at 45 the body was right and everything, and the quality of men decreased. And
well, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. They decreased. They decreased.
My young cousins.
Well, let's keep it real. They decreased when you in your 30s. I mean, at the time you were married, divorcing him, the options were already slim.
Okay.
There's the real thing right there, is that it doesn't catch up in women's minds, because in a woman's mind, as long as a man is willing to sleep with her, when you're in your 20s, you're being offered sex and a commitment, sex and resources, sex and a protector and provider. And females, then it's like Pavlov's dog. It's a Pavlovian response. When the man starts talking about sex, she just assumes that sex is coupled to those other things. What they don't realize is that after you get your late 20s, no, you won't even make it to your 30s. When you're late 20s, you are now being offered sex and nothing else. The sex has been decoupled from the resources, commitment, or anything else. It's just, hey, we'll lay up with you. And the female psyche and her acknowledgement and understand and her awareness of it hasn't caught up to where she actually is. She's still under the impression that, well, as long as I'm being offered sex, that sex is I'm still good. As long as there's sex, he's offering a commitment. Now you're meeting even if you could meet a doctor, lawyer, engineer, whatever. Even if you could meet him, he's no longer thinking of you in that wife material way, not off the bat. He's really just thinking, at this age, if nobody took you off the market, there's something wrong. And just understand, as far as men are concerned, if you reach your 30s and you're single, it's not because they're saying, oh, why ain't you had kids? It's that, well, I mean, you've had plenty of opportunities for a man to marry you and take you off the market. What did those guys see that I haven't seen yet? So I'm going to have to wrap things up here, Carolyn, but thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. This has been a very insightful phone call. I think you ladies have learned a lot from it. Please do give us a call again. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight. Let me get caller from area code 786. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, yo, what's good, yo? This Swag Boy 360 from Newark, New Jersey. What's going on?
What's on your mind?
Check this out, right? Now, I've been listening to you for the last week, right? Now, a lady when I was listening to you, a lady came up to me and asked me the same question a listener asked you a few weeks or a few days ago. They said, oh, he sound like Kevin Samuels. And I said, yes, he sound like Kevin Samuels, but it's a difference between him and Kevin Samuels. Now, here's the difference. Now, both of y'all come off as narcissistic and sadistic, but the difference between you is that as you talk to individuals, they will hear that you have a heart. So you tell them to do A, B, C, and D. So does Kevin Samuels, but you say do A, B, C, and D, and call me back with the result so I can make sure.
Micro Machines. Dramatically detailed, stupendously styled, smaller than enough. This one or this one. And now with a totally terrific town. The new Micro Machine Super City Toolbox playset. Closed, it's a mild matter toolbox. Open, it's a Micro Machine USA. Cruise your mini Micro Machine vehicles, planes, and boats to the police station, the marina, the mini motorcycle repair shop, the gas station, the construction office, work, the real working drawbridge, highway, passenger ramp, and garage doors. Or take a Micro Machine flying machine in for a landing. Phew, this place has it all. The new Micro Machine Super City Toolbox playset from Galoob. The one and only outrageous original miniatures. Remember, if it doesn't say Micro Machines, it's not the
my quote-unquote intestinal tract, see, because to preclude on the issue of world domination would only circumvent, circumcise.
Machine man here, I'm so amazing, I'm going to stop this runaway train with my bare hands. Clear the platform! Why, it's a Micro Machines train, of course. There's a Continental Bullet, Western Freight, Lightning Express, American Steamer, each set with freewheeling wheels and a tiny track. All aboard the Micro Machines.
I'm waiting, man. I'm waiting.
You can pull into the station with the tiny ticket booth and cruise by the real working crane. You can travel through the tunnel, loop by the little lake. Micro Machines, the real one, the original one.
You know, when people call into my program, they wait a very long time to speak to me sometimes. It can be a while before they get to speak to me. And I'm cognizant of that, which is why I always answer the phone the same way. Thank you for calling The Business. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? What's your name? Where you calling from? I answer the same way. And I try to answer with the same temperance. And you've been bugging my mods and everything to get on the line. And you waited all this time to do that. And all I can say is, ladies and gentlemen, this is your brain on drugs. Swag boy, hang up the phone and do not ever call me again. Who is a fella named Swag Boy? Yeah. Hang up the phone, punch your mama in the mouth, and don't ever pick up a phone and call me or anybody else. Let me spare anybody else out there. Anybody else out there with a working telephone number. Don't call any of them. Decline using the American telecommunication system for the rest of your life, essentially, is what you need to do. Caller from area code 903, you're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Caller from 903 has been abducted. Let me get caller from area code 636. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Salute, Mr. Black. This is Laverne from St. Louis.
Laverne from St. Louis, what's on your mind?
Well, the conversations went so wild, but one thing I have to say right off the bat, that last statement you made when you finished up with Miss Carolyn was so powerful. I wish I had a brother or uncle or somebody, dad, to tell me those things. That you, when you're young, you get the sex, the resources, the protection, and the commitment. You know, that was powerful. Hopefully the women are listening. I just called in to kind of defend us good girls a little bit. I'm 48. A lot of us have not, had no financial training. If you're like me, you're first generation break out of poverty. So, we're running off the rails these days because a lot of us, Black women, I'm speaking of, financially and so forth, because, everyone's scrambling, they got degrees. We're just trying to make these little degrees work to break out of certain things and making a lot of mistakes along the way.
Well, let me ask you a question
Carolyn,
here. Do you feel that most Black women are coachable? And by coachable, I mean that they can be corrected. And if they're wrong about something, that a man who's competent and whatnot, not just some guy talking, but that they can be told that they are wrong and that they will be immediately receptive to it and willing to accept being corrected?
100% no. And the reason why I say that is because I am a person that's in leadership and under leadership. And when I tell you I have so much problems with women on the job now, in the relationship, I have to admit, from a relationship standpoint, I have to admit that when I was married, I was not a cooperative wife because I had no training. In fact, you did a previous show where you talked about how a lot of women are being messed up by bitter women and things like that. I was like, well, I'm glad somebody knows that, we absorbed a lot of this dysfunction. And so it was actually my crash and burn marriage that taught me that I had work to do with learning how to even cooperate with a man. So no, women are not cooperative. They're very obstinate, rebellious, disrespectful. It's too much. And I see why a lot of men are getting tired. I really do.
Well, let me ask you a question here. How old are you?
I'm 48.
And in all honesty here, and thank you for your candor about what you experienced. In all honesty, the way I take a look at it now is really just, I really want to just talk to the females in their early 20s whenever I can. That's really where our focus needs to be, because in many ways, as cold as this is going to sound, females in their 30s or older, we're going to have to write off pretty much all of them. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there are in this society we live in today, when you are inundated with social media, and there is a Facebook group literally that will reinforce any dysfunction you have, whether it is legal, criminal, civil. It doesn't matter how sick, it doesn't matter how stupid, it doesn't matter how backwards. There is a Facebook group or a Twitter page that will reinforce specifically whatever nonsense you got going on in your heads. And so much of it is specifically engineered and tailored towards women, towards females, as soon as they can read it, that by the time they do by the time they do happen to encounter a man who is competent and worth a damn and knows what he's talking about, they've already got a soundtrack telling them that they don't have to listen to anybody. They are in dire need of leadership and instructions, and they're telling you what they don't need and what they're fighting over. And maybe if you catch them in their early 20s, they haven't gotten solidified because they've already been exposed. As men, we can forget completely the idea of someone who's pristine and virginal and non-exposed. They've all been exposed like radiation like radiation from Chernobyl. It's still circulating around the world. Radiation from Fukushima, still circulating around the world. So the idea that you will meet one who has not been exposed, that ain't happening. What you're really looking for is one who is still workable. And that's not happening in their late 20s. Certainly by the time they get to their 30s, they are set in their ways, man. They are set in their ways. And by set in their ways, let me explain exactly what I mean when I say that they are set in their ways.
90 seconds.
Because I want folk to understand what this means. When I say that they are set in their ways, what I mean is that they are perfectly fine and perfectly willing to lose. That is what I mean. That they are set in their ways and they're okay losing. They're okay doing it their way, even if they lose. And it's at that point that a man has to ask himself, is whatever I'm getting from her so great that it is worth, engaging in a suicide pact? Because now they're in a situation where they've got plenty of females around them who will hold their hands as they all march off to the cat museum or the cat farm and pick up as many felines as they can carry and whatnot. It used to be that women mocked each other. Let me be very clear. It used to be that the women checked each other and mocked each other about that. That's what it used to be. Not anymore. The females today comfort each other.
I can't even be mad at what you're saying because I experienced this within my family too. I mean, a lot of my younger cousins and them, they just, man, it's hard to watch.
10 seconds.
The respect that maybe you and I grew up with for, when our older cousins or aunties or somebody used to try to give us certain guidances, they're not even trying to hear none of that.
Well, no, the grandmamas want their daughters to be stuck on the porch with them because they don't have a husband. So today, the exit plan is to screw up your daughters or hobble your sons so that you have a playmate for the rest of your life. And then they will cry and complain when the boys are not leadership material. They're not assertive. If you don't teach him how to be assertive at home, he's going to go into the workforce and be submissive there. Well, guess what? Submissive men make submissive incomes. So now you are complaining that he is an underachiever in the workforce when you hobbled him and neutered him and diluted him down and turned him into that. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of something you don't want, and the daughters become unworkable, and at that point it's just one big trash pile. So thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Please do give us a call again. Like I say, it's a situation here now where we're really gonna have to start looking past the millennials and the generations after them. You're gonna have to talk to them because your baby boomers, of course, are a done deal. Gen X, forget about it. The millennials, I talked about this before, pretty much most of them are aging out now. So, Gen X, the Beyonce generation, they're all turning 40 now. The millennials are on their way to being old enough. The millennials are having kids of their own now. So at that point right there, man, it's just everybody after that. Everybody after that. Let me get caller from area code 301. You're on live with the business. What's your name? Where you calling from? Turn off your speakers.
Hi, Jackson. This is Sherry calling. I missed a lot of the show today, but I think you're talking about, I guess, older women tapping out, and I'm pretty much one of those ones. And I can look back, and my dad used to tell me when I turned 30, he said, "You're about to tap out, girl. You're about to be an old maid." And I really didn't get what he was saying. I, too, thought, I got time. You know, men are coming around, and like the previous two callers are telling you, when it was, you know, when I was still dating at 30, it wasn't the same, and I didn't realize it. By the time I turned 40, I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. And never look back, and it just hurt. So now I try to catch some of the younger women. Like I have a cousin, she's 30, and she has a 4-year-old daughter, 3-year-old daughter. I said, look, girl, you better find a husband, and quick. You know, your time, she's not that cute. That's one. I'm like, you better find one. And then some of these young girls, I tell them, you know, you got to find a man and be obedient. No, black women, we are the worst. We're not obedient. I never was. I thought I was cute. I was 5'8", size 8. Never was a shorter man. And I really thought I had time. So,
well, you know, I think that's a very good point, because here's the problem. The problem is this has become a generational illness. It's really become a generational illness where it's what they call debutante syndrome. And that used to be something that, quite frankly, was really just, you know, epidemic among white women. Now black women they call it being a diva, but this idea that you have some intrinsic value. And in reality, what it is sexual value, and everybody's got that, but there's no coaching or mentoring. You know, you used to have mothers and grandmothers who explained to you, girl, sexual attention doesn't have value. Sexual attention coupled to resources have value. Sexual attention has no value. You can get sex anywhere. What you need is a man who is so enamored with you that he brought sex and resources, sex and commitment, sex and a future. Now that's what you need. But if your mama is screwed up and she never grew up properly, she never matured, she never became a fully actualized adult, and so she's basically a 50-year-old teenager running around, now she's inculcating you to follow her into her crap because no man would stick with her, so now she's trying to raise her daughter to be her running buddy. She's hoping you hurry up and come of age to be her running buddy. And dad is just sitting back looking at it, because you talked about dad. I didn't hear you talk about your mom. So were your dad and your mom together?
Yeah. Yeah, my mom and dad were together. My dad, he was just kind of short of beta. My dad, he brought home the bacon. She had the fried in the pan. They had the old traditional role. But I think my mom just wasn't communicating to me. I think my mother would have ran the streets a little more, but she knew this. If she stepped off that porch with these two kids, my dad knew she wasn't going anywhere. He was the breadwinner. He was the provider. And so instead of telling me directly to find a man as a provider, she didn't really say it. She just was kind of like, if no man's better than no man, find your man. But she never said you're running out of time.
I'm not sure if you got your hand over the phone because you don't want your man to hear what you're saying or whatever. But it sounds like you got your hand cupped over the phone. Jason, I want to talk to you about is Leroy asleep right now? Leroy still up? I don't want him here because I want to leave him to Jason. Okay, but no, look, where your mom was concerned, here's the mistake that she made, and that's what you're expressing here now, ladies. A lot of y'all sit up here and try to infantilize your children. And that's the dumbest thing you can. Okay. Black women, unfortunately, try to make their children their friends instead of their children. And that doesn't mean you necessarily have adult conversations with your children necessarily. But if she was going to tell you about that, ladies, say it in no uncertain terms. Don't sit up here and speak in vague generalities. This ain't the time for code speak. This is not the time for code words. If your daughter is old enough that she is getting that type of attention and she's talking to you about it, it's like alcohol, drugs, or whatever. You got to give them the real and say, this is the kind of man you want. Because here's the problem. The reason why you have so many the reason why we have so many cute chicks out here who got kids by bum ass niggas is because their mama didn't tell them, baby, you're a cute chick and here's the kind of guy you need to be with. They sit up here and you're a cute chick and your daughter is listening to Puffy and listening to Migos and sitting up here listening to garbage, and you're not grooming her. See, they used to groom your daughters and say, okay, my daughter is young and stupid and she'll go with whatever pop culture tells her. I am the adult. I am here to groom you, and this is the kind of man you gonna be with, because you don't know what the hell you want yet. I'm sorry, you know what you want, but you don't have a damn idea of what you need. I know what you need, and I am gonna groom you. He knows. Okay, let me explain. I know what you need, and the man that you need to be with, he knows what he wants. My job is to make sure you're ready for him, as opposed to you meet him and you're spouting rap lyrics to a fella who's looking for a damn wife. The fella looking for the weekend honey is, you can spout lyrics to him. The man looking for the wife, you got to come better than that. But that doesn't happen if you just say, well, get a guy. Is he nice? Does he have a job? Okay, well, if all you want is your daughter to be with the average guy, then give her average guy grooming. If you want your daughter to be with a producer who's going to elevate her life, we got to talk about, okay, baby, look, this is how much he needs to make, the exact dollar figure. He needs to be making 6 figures, but you got to look like a chick who belongs with 6 figures. So if you're talking to us that way, we got to deal with you differently. When you talk about the Italian mafia, yes, I said the damn mafia. When you talk about the Italian mafia, when the kids come on the block and whatnot and they're hanging out with the wise guys, they get them up to speed quickly. We don't do that with the daughters. Too many people either trying to keep them as children and then give them hot girl summer and automatically you're supposed to be an adult. We need a lot more grooming, but grooming needs to be in no uncertain terms. If there's ambiguity, your daughter's going to try to fill in the gaps, and I guarantee she will get it wrong because she doesn't know what you actually mean. When you say, well, does he have a job or this and that, she doesn't know what that means. She has no idea what that really means. Her definition of job is not your definition of job. Does he have a job? Well, yes, he does. How long has he worked there? 5 years. Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's okay. And then you find out later your daughter is struggling and sitting up here working 2 jobs, and the kid's looking all snotty and dirty. And I thought you said he had a job. He does. Well, what does he do?
Right.
He works at Pizza Hut. Wait a minute. I thought you said he had a job. Well, he does, Mama. He's been working there for 9 years now. 9 years at Pizza Hut. You see what I mean? Your definition wasn't hers. We got to be straight and on the table. And by the way, one other thing, I'm very quick to tell females this. Damn, somebody trying to shame you talking about you's a gold digger. Because the fellas calling you a gold digger ain't got no gold to dig. That's the great irony of it. I'll let you have the last word.
I got that from you a while ago, and that's what I'm preaching to the young girls now. You're not a gold digger. No, you're not. You gotta shirt for the top of the line, but you gotta take care of yourself and just warm. So I'm actually trying to groom some of the young women that I know, because I'm done. I'm dead in the water, and I didn't realize it till it was too late.
Well, thank you for your candor in that regard. But more importantly, now that the real thing is we need the females who are at your point here to be honest with the young chicks and let them know, look, I done hung up my spurs. I'm not in the game like that. And let me explain to you honestly the mistakes we made, because as men, we'll do that with each other. We will tell the young cats these are the mistakes we made. The females, they will hide it, they will lie, they won't say a damn thing, and just let the younger generation go off and crash and burn. And that level of contempt is really, quite frankly, it's really hateful. It's really hateful that you would see these young women and be like, yeah, whatever happens to you, go to your fate. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 202. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello. Are you referring to me? Hello?
Are you area code 202?
I believe so. I'm sorry. I'm calling you on Google phone. Oh, okay. Then you obviously must be speaking to me. Okay, great.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Caller from area code 602. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Nastasia from Phoenix.
Nastasia from Phoenix. What's on your mind?
All right. Well, I was listening to the broadcast, so I pretty much got there in the middle when you were doing the stats. And there was one particular stat that you presented that I had an issue with. Not that they're wrong or anything, but it's just your interpretation.
All right, there's the first problem right there. I have a problem with it. It's not factually inaccurate, but I have a problem with it. Think about this. I'm going to give you a few moments here, Nastasia. Are you sure you want to go? Are you certain you want to go for this? Are you sure you don't want to double back and, regroup and think this over?
I really don't.
All right, baby. Give it. Okay, pull on your shoulder pads, strap on your helmet, hit the line, and give it your best shot.
Okay, well, the first stat that you were talking about, which compared the income of black women to white men, well, you were sitting there and you were saying that the women that were in high school were actually doing better than the women in college. But you did not point out the fact that those stats were actually comparing black women's income to white men's income that are also in their educational level.
Ma'am, that was literally what I said. Ma'am, that was literally what I said.
Okay.
I literally said those. Okay, then you might want to go get the miracle ear people to help you. I literally said those words.
Well,
proportional. I literally said proportional to their white counterparts. That's literally what I said. I literally said proportional to their white counterparts.
Then I have a question. Then how is it then you?
And she's still talking.
That the women. Oh, okay.
I mean, she just admitted that she didn't hear it. She was wrong, and she's like, okay, well, all right, well, why then? This is black women. Why would you want to make yourselves look bad to think that, well, if I just keep talking, I can save face? The best way to save face is that when you realize you're wrong, just let it go. Because go ahead and say what you're going to say next. And I want everybody to hear if this is a game changer. Okay, you were going to say, well, why did I what?
Okay, well, why then did you turn around and make the statement that the women that had the high school education fared better than the women with the high school education? That doesn't make any sense.
Proportional to their white counterparts, dollar for dollar, proportional to their white counterparts. Technically speaking, yeah, they kind of did. Technically speaking, proportional to their white counterparts, which, and by the way, apparently that's a big long sentence and you kind of got throwed by it. Google is y'all's friend. Proportional, you might want to look up the definitions of the word proportional and counterparts. I'm just going to assume you know what white means.
Proportional and counterpart
Clearly not.
What I'm saying
Clearly not.
Yes, I do.
Then you would not be asking this.
Okay.
Proportional to their white counterparts. If you take a look at it dollar for dollar, because if you go listen very carefully. I know this will not help you at all. I'm talking to the audience, not you, because you won't get it. If you take a look at what is happening here, and I explain this ma'am, be quiet. I'm hosting my program. Be quiet. You had your chance to talk. You told us what you know. You didn't know anything. If you take a look at when you go to college, I mentioned this before too, it went right over your head like a 747 over Hartsfield Jackson.
No, it didn't.
But in any case,
it really didn't.
If you take a look at when you go to school, if you go to high school, it didn't cost you anything to drop out. It costs you money to get a bachelor's. It costs you a whole lot more to get an advanced degree. So once you go into all of that debt and you got a house and a car, that wasn't free. Every dollar that you make at that point, that wasn't free. That's dollars that actually cost you to get. So technically speaking, a female might be able to make an income on her own without a degree. Because it just said education level less than high school. That doesn't mean income, but what it does mean is education level less than high school or high school graduate, no college. So there are females who might be able to make a living wage without having to go into debt to that degree. If you have to start racking up $50,000, $100,000 in debt so you can make $100,000 or $120,000 a year, in many ways, proportionally speaking, comparative to their white counterparts at those education levels, the chicks who didn't go to college might be doing better proportionally, dollar for dollar.
I
literally just explained it, and she just said how.
Better than a woman that
I
makes
literally just said that.
$100,000 a year.
If you're a female
how are those figures adding up?
Ma'am, if you are a female with who's a high school graduate and goes into the military, you might do better. You're going to do better than the female with a bachelor's degree in psychology who racked up $80,000 or $100,000 in debt.
Okay, first of all, I know people that are in the military. First of all, when you're in the military, there are certain things you have to do to qualify for ranking in the military. There are some things in the military that
Okay, so rather than her just admit that what I just did debunked her, she's literally just babbling on.
No, I'm not. No,
How
I'm not.
old, ma'am? How old are you?
You want to say I'm babbling,
ma'am?
But I'm actually
how old are you,
But what I'm trying to say,
ma'am? Last try. How old are you, ma'am?
You're misleading your audience.
Okay.
You're misleading
so
your audience.
Basically what she's saying is she admits, yeah, she was just wrong. And by the way, the military example was just one. That was just one. If you want to know what we're talking about here, once they get too old, this is brutal reality. You all got to understand, math is immovable. Math isn't subject to your opinion. You can't shame math and you can't bully math. Math is math. Your age is your age. What you use the years for is what you use the years for. This either works or it doesn't. That's it. And if you want to know what they're so triggered for, it's because they realize they've run out of time. They are out of the most important resource you can have. They are out of time. They're out of time. And that's what she's upset about here. And by the way, for anybody who's telling me, well, Jason, let them talk. I hope all you stupid, backward ass, cross-eyed, buck-toothed, bug-eyed folk talking about let them talk. By the way, we let them talk tonight, didn't we? How'd that turn out? By the way, how much did they contribute to it? Yeah. Now, you have to understand, somebody as dumb as her, she'll go off here and all, like I said, all this flew over her head like a paper airplane over a kindergarten classroom. And she was still sitting up here arguing. You know why? Because the reality is so damn brutal. The reality is so brutal. And you notice tonight, we only had to ask 2 questions. How old are you and how much do you weigh? How old are you and how much do you weigh? Game over. So to the chicks who have aged out, the ones who have timed out, the ones who have gotten debt out of their ears, yeah, you can't argue through this. I mean, you want to argue it. You can't argue time. You either use the time properly or you lost it. That's all. That's all. That's all. That's all. And by the way, before any jackass says it, because there are a lot of slow bus children, y'all got to understand there's a whole bunch of kids. I mean, it really is real. I'm not joking what I'm about to say next. This is not a joke. Do you realize how many children out there have been raised with lead pipes? They're the lead pipe babies, the little crack babies, the lead paint babies. Now they're grown. They're in their 40s or 50s or older, and they are grown, and they're just out here babbling at the world. They have no cognitive skills. They don't have any numerical skills whatsoever. They're just out here in the world stumbling around, stumbling and bumbling and babbling. And that's it. And she literally couldn't put the math together real quick and say, well, you know, a person who's sitting under debt. I'm not saying that every woman with an advanced degree should have just left high school or graduated from high school and then hit the stripper pole. I didn't say anything about stripping, by the way. Did you notice I didn't say something like that? There are a number of different careers or different jobs or different money-making ventures you can go into or different ways to make money that don't require an advanced degree. There's any number of them. Assuming you can get hired for them, there's any number of them. You don't need a degree to work at General Motors or Tesla. You don't need a degree for that. You really don't. You don't need it to be a driver for Amazon. You really don't. You may have to work harder at it, but you don't. And technically speaking, if you're going up against a chick who racked up $80,000 in debt getting a sociology degree, and now she's come out as a high school guidance counselor making $36,000 a year, you could make more than that driving for Amazon without a degree. my little back of the classroom, crayon chewing, desk licking individual who just got off the phone here. By the way, yeah, if y'all want a real world example, there's a reason they call me the authority. No, you could, if you're going up against a female who got a useless degree, yeah, you could probably do better than her in any number of things. Now, to the one who actually got one she could use, I mean, she's a nurse practitioner or something. Oh, no, she's going to kick your ass with both feet. But there's a number of females, just because she has an advanced degree, technically speaking, when you compare it to her white counterpart, she might have been better off driving for Amazon. Who knows? But yeah, there is a logical argument to be made for that. There really is. Just because you sitting under a whole bunch of student debt and Ronald McDonald is kicking in your front door ready to whoop your ass to get that money back, that doesn't mean that I'm wrong. That just means you made a lot of bad decisions. And what you demonstrated on the phone here is you don't listen. And it wasn't so much that she didn't listen, she didn't like what she heard. Even after she was corrected, I told her, by the way, I already said that. I already said it was proportional to your white counterparts. She still wanted to argue, and she was still wrong. And that's why I told you all. Now, you all are going to say, well, Jason, you let her talk right there. Okay, go ahead and finish saying what you were going to say. Well, I mean, what about just because they... All right. Well, you know, if you're going to the military, well, in the military, you have to rise through the ranks. Okay, if you don't, just shut up now. Just shut the hell up. You're not saving face. You just showed everybody that you're just trying to defend your busted, broken little ego. That wasn't even saving face. We're not here to spare your emotions. If you want to know why it is the young females today cannot get any game from these hoes, she was exhibit A of why the young females today cannot get any game from these old chicks. These old chicks are set in their ways. They don't want to be correct. They just want to hear you say that everything they said is right. And even when the math slam dunks them on top of their heads with a brick, they are still arguing. And all that demonstrates is why they were never able to do better than they have. That's all it did. That's all. We've been on for over 3.5 hours here. I got callers sitting on the line, but we're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. If you're new to the business, welcome to the program that laid the foundation upon which all these other copycats out there are ripping off everything. If you want to know what makes us different and better and real, this is what it is. You get the insights and analysis and the factual basis that you will receive nowhere else. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every week. Like I say, got an open forum program coming up here. Boy, after tonight's program, I can only imagine what that's going to be like. But all right, we'll go for it anyway. And this concludes tonight's, I want to thank everyone. Let me say one thing. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program, either on PayPal or Cash App. Thank you to all of you who chose to do that. I know you could have tricked off your little money at the club and everything, but thank you for doing that. We appreciate that. Big thanks to all of you here. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Business. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, handle your business or your business will handle you.